Good evening to all of you. Let me call to order a public hearing of the City of Los Angeles Charter Reform Commission. Please stand and join Judge James N. Reese, Charter Reform Commissioner, in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you please repeat with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Judge Reese. Will Dr. Sonnenschein please read the roll?
Give me a second here. George Kiefer.
Here.
Mary Ann Reyes. Alexandra Glickman. Marguerite Archie Hudson.
Here.
Luann Boylan.
Here.
Anton Kalea.
Here.
Jose de Sosa.
Here.
Edmund Edelman. Andrew Friedman.
Here.
Jerry Gaines.
Here.
Linda Griego. Andrew Henderson.
Here.
Stuart Quo. Joseph Mandel.
Here.
Gloria Michelle.
Here.
Doris Isolini Nelson. Judge James Reese.
Here.
Sharon Schuster. Kenneth Thomas. David Trowbridge.
Here.
Robert Wilkinson.
We have a quorum. I want to note that our Commissioner Ken Thomas, some of you may know, is recovering from major surgery, and although he gave us tremendous help in putting this on with work with the Sentinel, he's not able to be here, obviously, tonight. We wish him well. Let me move to the welcome and ask Ms. Joyce Cooper, principal of 75th Street Elementary School, to join us.
Good evening. I am very happy to welcome you to 75th Street School. I want you to know that you are sitting in the oldest building on our site. This is the original 75th Street School, opened in 1922. We celebrate our 75th year anniversary this year. So I hope that many of you will be able to join us again for that occasion. We'll be giving you the dates very soon. It'll be in November. But we plan to have a gala celebration inviting former students, many of them who have gone on to reach great heights, former teachers, and just former friends of ours, or present friends of ours as well. But it will be a great celebration. This afternoon, I'd also like to introduce some other very important people in the lives of 75th Street School. Our superintendent, Dr. Ruben Zacharias. Our board member, Mrs. Barbara Boudreau. And with us tonight, we also have our cluster administrator, Mr. Charles Jackson. 75th Street School is a part of the Fremont cluster, which is one of the largest clusters in Los Angeles Unified School District. So again, I'd like to welcome you. We're very happy that we could accommodate you. And please know that you are welcome to return whenever you desire.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cooper. Our hearing this evening is sponsored by the Charter Reform Commission and the Sentinel, and we want to thank the Sentinel for its coverage and involvement. We also want to thank the staffs of council members Rita Walters and Mark Ridley Thomas, who have given us great help in arranging this hearing, as well as Nate Holden, Ruth Galanter, and Rudy Savornich, Jr. We have two elected commissioners here who I want to acknowledge. At least, or three elected commissioners here, excuse me. We have Bennett Kaiser, Jackie DuPont Walker, and Ann Finn. The members of this commission have been appointed by city's elected officials to examine the charter and make recommendations to the city council for changes in the charter. This meeting is the fourth in a series of commission hearings held in neighborhoods throughout the city to receive public input. As you probably know, the charter sets forth the basic government structure for the city. and basically decides how power is vested between the people and its the citizens and the government and among the officials in the government. We have recently come out with a document entitled Road to Decision that puts forth 10 key issues that we think are going to have to be examined by us over the next over the next 3 weeks. And there's a handout that describes those briefly to you in executive form, both in English and in Spanish. The Charter has not been changed in 72 years, and it has been amended some 400 times since it was adopted in 1925, just shortly after the creation of this building. It's our job to take a look at that, as I say, and take a look at what works and what doesn't work. I want to acknowledge and introduce to you our Executive Director, Dr. Rafe Sonnenschein, who's been heading up a terrific staff doing our work. And only at this point, Rafe, is there anything that you want to bring to our attention that we might not have covered?
I would only say that the issues in our report are meant to draw people into this discussion, not to end the discussion, but to begin the discussion. And you'll see that we'll be occupied with this for the next 4 or 5 months. And the hearing and beyond the hearing are great opportunities for you to let us know what you think on each of these questions. And we'll be using every way possible to reach you and make it as easy as possible for you to reach us. So we look forward to this as a great opportunity for us to all talk together about the Charter.
Seated on my right and on your left is Commissioner Marguerite Archie Hudson, who is not only a member of the appointed commission, she's also a member of the elected commission, and we are fortunate to have her serving on each of the commissions. I'd like to call on Marguerite now to cover what are the issues in charter reform and some other items that we'd asked her to cover.
Thank you very much, and good evening. I'm really delighted to see so many people here this evening because it affirms for me what we've always known, that across this city, constituents really care very much about how their government works. And people really do understand that this charter that we're talking about, this city charter, is the people's constitution. We wonder sometimes if it's our constitution, how come we don't really have a vehicle by which to debate what ought to be in it and how it ought to work? That is the vehicle that's currently of opportunity to us through 2 processes, through this appointed commission which sits before you, and through the elected commission, some members of whom are here tonight. And I say that because I think that I speak for all of us, and I think I speak for the entire community when I say to the question of how government should work, how it should be accountable, how we hold it accountable, how it provides the best services. It doesn't matter so much whether we come to this task as an appointed commission or as an elected commission. We all come here to do the community's work and to make it possible that all of us can begin what is this very important discussion. And so I'm pleased to be a part of both commissions, as a matter of fact, but I'm particularly glad to have the opportunity to help create and to join with you in creating, as we move into the 21st century, a document that really can stand as a people's constitution, and a document which says quite simply that all the people of Los Angeles deserve the best, the very best that its government can give, and that we have an opportunity now, which we don't intend to blow, to make sure that happens. So as we move through this process in the next 18 months, this is a process that you and us, the commissioners and the public, move through together. It is my hope that as we deliberate tonight and as we deliberate in the future, in every block club, in every church, in every homeowners association, in every organization, on every block, we're going to be talking together about what it is that we expect the city of Los Angeles' government to deliver, how we expect it to deliver, how we hold this government accountable, and what this charter currently does and what it needs to do in the future to make that possible. I want you to understand that we're talking about literally rewriting, if we need to, the Constitution of this city. We should find that a really critical challenge. We should find it an important challenge. And I hope when we leave here tonight, we leave with the commitment that we're going to all stay with this, because it's the one opportunity we get during this frame to make sure that Los Angeles lives up to its promise of opportunities for all of the citizens. Having said that, I just want for a minute to walk with you through what are some of the basic issues and questions that this commission, have come up with through the deliberation in the last 6 or 8 months, I guess, through the meetings we've had, through the hearings, through talking with a lot of people, through hearing from people on what really are the things that people want to talk about. Now, we understand that this is just a beginning conversation and that there'll be lots more things that people will want to talk about. And we hope that as we sit down neighbor to neighbor and really work through this document, which is called Road to Decision, which you have a summary of, and the subsequent documents that will come out, that we're going to together create a charter. Having said that, there are about 6 or 8 recurring questions that have come up, which are questions that we believe it's important for us all to review together, and which are the questions that are the initial deliberations that we will be having. The first one has to do, well, not necessarily in any order, but one of the things we've heard a lot is whether it makes a difference, whether the city charter gives more power to the mayor or whether it gives more power to the city council. That question really wraps itself around the issue for us of whether more power to the mayor or more power to the council results in more power to the people, because that really is a central issue. And so as we debate that issue, it's not about the city council and the mayor of Los Angeles. It's about which frame of government and which form of government gives us the best hope of giving power to the people. There's a question that we've been wrestling with, and we all will be wrestling with, about whether or not school board members should be elected in a different way. Because I don't know if you're aware that the school board and the operations of the school board are part of the Los Angeles City Charter. So part of the issue is whether or not there is a different way for us to elect school board members, whether there's a different way about the numbers of persons that should be elected, whether they should be elected at large, whatever. That question wraps around, is there another way in which we can guarantee more and better and higher quality access to education? That really is the question. Because from our point of view, we are all interested mutually in making sure that all of our children have the best education they can. There's a question about whether there should be more city council seats. And I think we really have to look at that very hard. Again, about whether smaller council districts give us better access to our representatives, or whether it makes a difference, and whether we should concentrate more on whether there are basic qualities of our participation with our representatives. But it's an important question, and we really have to pay attention to it. Should the offices of the city attorney, who after all is our city's lawyer, or the city controller, who after all is our chief financial officer, be elected or appointed? Does it make a difference in terms of how we empower the people to really enjoy the benefits of this city government? A real critical question is, are there some ways in which this government of this city can run more effectively and efficiently? What are those ways? What should happen? And how it should be done and how it should be reflected in the charter is an issue that we're all going to be debating for a long while. And that goes to some very basic living questions about parks and recreation and transportation and senior housing and safety in the street and economic development, all of the life issues that make our communities better or worse. Should the civil service program be restructured or not? What about our pension funds? How do those things work? Do we need different protections for workers? That's a question that's very important to us. Finally, a very critical one that addresses the issue of how do we as the people get a closer relationship and truly more power in addressing our government, and that is, should the charter create neighborhood councils? And if so, what should be the characteristics of those neighborhood councils? Should they have real power so that they can decide, for example, on issues such as a budget or parts of the city plans or what should happen in senior housing or something? Or should they only be advisory to the council members or to the mayor or to whomever? Should those councils, if we have them, be elected or should they be appointed? What powers should they have? I would submit that that's a bottom line fundamental question, because it goes to the heart of whether or not we can create a mechanism by which the people of this city can have more of an opportunity to really have access to the power of their government. And so those are some of the questions that have been raised. Those are some of the questions that we are debating. Those are some of the questions that we will be debating as a community over these next 6 or 8 months. There are other questions that out of our mutual living experience we're going to put on the table. And we want those questions on the table. So what we really are beginning tonight in this meeting and what we've begun in other parts of the city is a real joining together of the community and its representatives around this notion that Los Angeles has a constitution which belongs to the people, and that the people now have an opportunity to weigh in on it, to put the work in, to really deliberate, and to be able to put before the city council and with the elected commission on the ballot sometimes in 1999, a document that speaks to all of our interests, and a document which says that this city of Los Angeles really once and for all has heard from its citizens, and that this new constitution will not be amended by special interests or happenstance or special events, but will be amended by a deliberate process which has brought the people of this community together, all these communities, to deliberate, to think, to debate with each other, and finally to act on a constitution that will represent all of us. I'm glad to be a representative on this. I thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward, as do all of our commissioners, to the work we're about to begin. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marguerite. We're going to begin with some public comment in a few minutes. I want to ask you, those who want to sign up to speak, please fill out the cards that are in the back. Give them to any of the commission staff. They're wearing badges identifying themselves. They're raising their hands right now so you can see them. And we'll give you some time to fill out those cards and speak on these issues that Marguerite highlighted, or any that you want to talk about regarding the Charter of the City of Los Angeles. We will now have some remarks by special guests who are here this evening, and I want to begin with Council Member Rita Walters addressing us on the Charter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And before I begin any remarks about the charter itself, let me, welcome you to the 9th Council District, and welcome you particularly to 75th Street School. When I was a school board member, I was pleased to represent 75th Street School at the school board. 75th Street School here, as the principal has told us, is celebrating its 75th year of constant operation. Across the street from 75th Street School is the new 77th Street Police Station. Also a place full of history, but now a beautiful, beautiful new building, which will open officially October 25th. But it was designed by Bob Kennard, an outstanding African-American architect, and it's really a salute to this community. 75th Street School, the room where you had refreshments before you came in here, as you think about neighborhood councils, is a parent room. It started out as a learning center about African history and African American history, and hence you see some of the artifacts that are still left around the walls. And then as the years progressed, it was turned into a center for parents to gather, to be trained, to volunteer, for teachers to come for staff development. And out of that, even before that center was open for parents, there were parent councils in the schools, advisory councils that were established by the Board of Education. And you might talk to some of the representatives of the board, Mrs. Boudreau, Mr. Zacharias, or any of the staff, about how many years that they have had advisory councils in the schools. My recollection tells me that the first one was established in 1968 as a function of federally funded programs that demanded maximum feasible participation of the poor, and went on from there to expand to all schools. Now, one of the questions that you have about neighborhood councils, should there be neighborhood councils, one of the things I think that you have to be careful of, and certainly consider in your deliberation about neighborhood councils, is whether they're good for one neighborhood at the expense of another. And that can be a very touchy question. There are issues that come up in the council all the time that may be good, some people perceive them to be good for one neighborhood, but people in other neighborhoods may feel that their constituents may be harmed by a particular action. So I think that you really have to examine that issue through a very careful prism. When you talk about school board elections, that's something the charter has over it. As a person who has been elected to the school board a number of times and to the city council a number of times, my personal hope about the charter changes, and I don't think that's administrative in the charter, I think that's really I don't think it's a charter amendment that is required here. I think we need some administrative changes because for the school districts, the community college, the unified, and the city council are the only elective bodies that I know of that have to go out, and now the elected charter members, and get 500 valid signatures to get on the ballot. The Assembly, as former Assemblywoman knows, the State Senate and the Congress of the United States require about 50. So you might want to give that a consideration. Another thing that you have here is whether you should have a preamble. As I read that question, I thought about we, the people of the United States, together to form a more perfect union, and that has stood the test of time and I think is hard to beat. And you have offered one that was suggested in a prior charter revision that did not get adopted that I think is very good. A couple of things that you have here. First, let me commend you on your road to decision. I think it's a framework for discussion that is really excellent. And I'm sure as you follow this, you will come to the very best decisions possible for the people of Los Angeles. One of the things that you are talking about, it's a resolution that was passed at your September 10 meeting. Item 1F in that resolution says, it's under the notion, notwithstanding how the Reform Commission will decide, our goals are to provide a charter which, and F reads, prudently shifts the underlying emphasis of the charter from diffusion of power and prevention of abuse to flexibility for change and clear accountability for city officials. I think that while you're talking about flexibility and accountability, that it has to be clearly stated that you don't intend for there to be any room for abuse by either elected or appointed officials in any way. And that can take a lot of avenues. So I know that that's what you intend. You don't intend any abuse to be permitted or encouraged on the part of anyone. You have really a big job to do, and I am very pleased and proud of each and every one of you that you have agreed to take on this work, to undertake it in a very serious manner, and to be determined to return a document worthy of the people and worthy of your work as you contemplate the future of Los Angeles and what will point us beyond that road to decision, that it will point us on the pathway to the future, a future that is very different from the past, a future that encompasses an extremely diverse population, economically diverse, racially diverse, that religiously diverse, and that will help to bring us together as a people in this city, or certainly point the way toward that occurring. And I want to say thank you for all the people who have come out tonight to engage in this conversation, and I hope that we will continue to follow it, whether or not they're meeting in the 9th District, because they have meetings scheduled all over the city. And for those of us who can, it would be great to be at all of their meetings. And thank you so much for choosing the 9th Council District in which to meet tonight, and for choosing 75th Street School in which to meet the public of the 9th Council District.
Thank you. Before I introduce our next special guest, Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas, I want to recognize elected Commissioner Dennis Zine, who has just joined us and sat in the second row here. Nice to have you. Our next special guest is Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. I'm pleased to join you this evening at this hearing of the City Charter Commission. I want to applaud the commissioners for tackling this issue, a significant task. Charter reform is a nuts and bolts issue that will probably be one that we will have to work hard to cause people's interest to be sustained. We realize that it's not one of the issues that is emotional or provocative, and yet it has to be appreciated that is very, very important. I should hope that everyone will, as evidenced by their presence tonight, continue to keep this issue at the forefront. The commissioners here will be required to be innovators, consensus builders, leaders and pace setters as they attempt to mold literally our future and to set some of the ground rules that will take us into the next century. Charter reform, in my view, is not mission impossible, but I do think it has to be appreciated that it is a difficult undertaking. To those who are here otherwise, I think you are to be commended for being here. You know that you are the ones who can make this work. I'm glad to see that people are intensely concerned about this issue. We have a job to do, and when we do it, we can effectively set the pace, the agenda that needs to be set. We shouldn't be shy about it. Our views are to be heard. We are to express them with clarity and force. We should appreciate that the commission is our commission. This is our government, and we properly positioned can wield the appropriate level of influence and or power to bring about the levels of accountability that all of us think to be important. And therefore, I wish to thank you once again for your presence. I want to quickly update you as best as I can on some of the issues that you no doubt have noticed as a result of reading the newspapers, listening to the radio, and watching some of the coverage on television. The meeting tonight is hosted by the Los Angeles Charter Reform Commission, namely the city councils, if you will, official commission, those persons appointed by members of the council and others. It represents neighborhoods, as I understand it, from across the city, as is indicated by those who sit here. It is staffed, it's organized, it has its budget in place, it is up and running. They've been searching out meaningful solutions to pressing issues, as you just heard one of the commissioners speak to. holding public hearings, one of which is being held obviously tonight, and analyzing a variety of approaches to changing government. In short, they've been working and they've been doing a lot of work, and many think that they've been doing it quite well. And then there's a second commission, which you've heard reference to, which was inspired in part by Mayor Reardon's reform efforts, that is yet trying to fully establish itself to get up and running. These are elected commissioners. The mayor's plan was in part and may still be to finance that commission. There is, as you well appreciate, some debate about who should finance it and how the financing should take place. But in the event that things were to fall into place, as some may hope, that would mean that we would have two commissions and have two budgets, essentially to try to do the same thing. Now let's think about that just for a moment. I wonder why we need two commissions to do the same thing. What need do we have to have two commissions doing essentially the same thing? Well, I think if we have the best minds in this city working together to convert our in the minds of many, outdated charter into a new model for the country, wouldn't that be better for people to be working together instead of double budgets, double work, double everything? Why not think about how these two commissions can work together, maximize efficiency, and come out with a plan that is clear and coherent for the citizens of this city to understand and work through? That seems to me to be something that we must consider. My position is rather simple in this regard. It's essentially about unity. It's essentially about working together or coming together. It's about cooperation and not about competition. And I'd be pleased to have a full-length discussion, and I know that this is a point of view that is shared by a number of people, and we have yet to work through how that can be accomplished. What I fear is ultimately, if we don't rectify this situation, we will have two different proposals on the ballot. They will be competing proposals. They will be dueling or battling proposals. And rather than having clarity, we will have a situation where people will not know which end is up in terms of which to vote for and ultimately lose the opportunity to correct it. And so I am of the view that the leadership of this city must come forward with a method by which we can work together. The task this commission faces is very, very significant. Some may claim it to be overwhelming. There are no blueprints for guiding a city like Los Angeles into the future. Our population is larger than many states. Our citizens speak scores of languages. Our industry is changing at warp speed and is on the cutting edge of technology that is essentially reshaping the world. We are premier in terms of the Pacific Rim as a key player in international commerce, in areas among the European nations, the African nations, and Asia, as well as the Caribbean. Our future, in my view, is bright. And we must do all that we can to make sure that we treasure and support our most premier resources, and namely and chiefly among them is our human resource. Giving people a stake is the only way we can turn things in the direction we wish to see them go. Walter Washington, the first elected mayor of our nation's capital, put it very well when he said, People are not an interruption of our business. People are our business. If we were to use this philosophy as the foundation for our charter, we will have a flexible, accountable, inclusive, and responsive new charter that will lead to much more efficient, effective, and equitable governance. People are and must remain the pivotal part of the equations. So let me just simply conclude by saying that Los Angeles is again at a fork in the road, and the direction that we choose to take will determine the fate of generations to come. We can't afford to rest. We must stay vigilant, and if we were to do that, we will make sure that we keep moving in the proper direction. We have an opportunity to build a bridge or to build a bunker. And I hope we all choose tonight to build the bridge. I thank you.
Council member, we have a question for you from one of our commissioners.
Sir?
Andy Henderson.
Councilman, thank you. I just wonder if you could very briefly as possible, tell us a little bit about the structure of the Empowerment Congress that you've put together that's so highly acclaimed.
Well, I appreciate the question, Commissioner Henderson, and it's essentially a notion inspired by persons who wanted to make sure that they had sufficient access to their local elected official and could hold him accountable for his actions or behavior. And they've been able to do that pretty well. And to the extent that that is the case, it is what has been generically defined as neighborhood councils. They are elected by the persons who live in the 4 areas of the 8th Council District. They constitute a leadership corps. They hold regularly scheduled meetings on a variety of topics. There's a senior citizen component, a youth component, a community standards component, as well as a public safety component. This is essentially an experiment in which we've engaged for the past 5 years. On an annual basis, in excess of 700 people are convened for the purpose of setting the agenda for the 8th District, and it is perhaps at this point the most mature citizen involvement and organized vehicle in the city of Los Angeles. It is currently in the Government Efficiency Committee for consideration as a model that could be replicated for the city. And I'm pleased to report that any number of the persons who are here this evening are members of the Empowerment Congress, and if you would like, they can stand so that you can know who some of them are. And if you'd be so kind, we'd appreciate it. Members of the Empowerment Congress of the 8th District. Some of the leaders in the area. We thank you.
Thank you.
And it's with their permission that I make these remarks and suggest that a unified charter reform commission movement is the order of the day. We appreciate it.
Yes. Jose de Sosa has a question.
Yes, Mr. Councilman. This appointed commission,
Sir?
from the inception of made statements that we are willing to work with the elected commission.
Good.
And your remarks I appreciate very much. However, the concept of the 2 commissions, ours will come to the city council in the form of recommendations for the city council to review and determine what will be placed on the ballot.
Correct.
The elected commission will submit their recommendation directly to the public. In order for the 2 commissions to work as one, as you're suggesting, it will be necessary that, one, that the recommendation of the Joint Commission will be put to the people without going to the city council for approval. And if this is what your thinking is, then I'm in fully support of your recommendation, and I would urge that the citizens of Los Angeles call their city council members and follow your direction and call for this joint venture if it will be sent directly to the public as a recommendation to the ballot and not to be analyzed and dissected by the city council. Is this what I'm hearing your recommendation is, Mr. Councilman?
Mr. Commissioner, I appreciate your remarks. My suggestion is that we find a way to work together as cooperatively and as constructively as possible. And that means that the two commissions, with the creativity and the intelligence that is resident in these two bodies, can find a way for us all to work together. That means the elected commission, the appointed commission, the city council, the mayor, and all who have some stake in the outcome, the city attorney and the controller. Let me be as clear with you as I possibly can. There is nothing to be gained, in my view, from advancing a proposal, call it charter reform, taking it to the ballot and having the persons who enjoy most standing in this city by way of being elected not being able to support it. I'm essentially saying that it is important to fashion a document that can be saluted by as wide a representation as possible, which would include the city council and other elected officials in the city. That's the way I think we build movement. I think that's the way we build unity. That's the way we build consensus. And so the sense in which somehow certain people can't or shouldn't be involved in the process, I think, is a calculated mistake. We need to get everybody involved and build consensus. Now, that doesn't mean that you'll have 100% participation or inclusion, but we can do much better than what is the case today, because I think we're terribly fractured, divided, and who will in the long run be disadvantaged? I think the people of the city of Los Angeles will have an inferior product with respect to a new charter, and confusion will not produce the result that we ultimately wish to see take place.
Council member, I think you'll be happy to hear that at the direction of each of the commissions, ad hoc committees have been formed to explore that effort at cooperation. The first meeting of the two committees occurred today up in room 47 here at the 75th Street School.
My.
And so you're right on time with us as usual.
Thank you.
And I'm pleased that some of the elected commissioners have joined us this evening under those circumstances, and we're going to keep making effort at putting this together.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next special guest, I'm going to introduce in just one moment, but I want to recognize Paul Brownridge, City Treasurer, who I understand is here, right over here. Thank you for joining us. Our next special guest is recently named Police Chief Bernard Parks, and we're very happy to have him this evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk, hopefully very briefly, and give you some comments as it relates to what I think are some important issues on the task that you're going to undertake. And also, rather than take a very broad view, my comments will be somewhat limited to the police department, because that seems to be where my sensitivities are. Number one, I think as you look at the charter, it is a very important document to us. It dictates in a large degree our primary responsibilities to the city. I think it is clear that with the growth of a number of police departments within the city of LA in different jurisdictions, that we must maintain that the Los Angeles Police Department is the primary responsibility as an agency to deal with law enforcement, public safety, traffic flow, and issues that we can never be in a situation that is a shared responsibility as it relates to the overall city. Also, I think it's important that as we look towards issues that impact the city, that we seem to function better as a city if the charter had some way of directing departments to be more territorial. Right now, with the number of jurisdictions and boundary lines that are inconsistent, it's very difficult to determine services as relates to every city department has its own boundaries based on its own concerns. And probably the most recognizable boundaries are that of the police department, because people relate to the geographic boundaries of police stations and geographic bureaus. Certainly, the council districts change often with reapportionment, but every city department does choose to select and move their boundaries as they determine for their specific activity. Therefore, it's impossible to determine service level or in many times relationships between departments and to have some functioning activity. And give you an example, years ago we evaluated trying to determine within the Park and Recreation how we could make better liaisons, and we found in many instances regional directors in the Park and Recreation would handle parks as far north as the Valley and as far south as Newton Division, which makes sometimes very difficult, again, to determine how services are allocated and how relationships are built. The other issue that, and I think it comes from the activities of the police and fire as a lesson, it's probably those two departments are the most decentralized. They're also have hours that are far greater in number in the sense of 24-hour service. They also deliver service to the customer as opposed to allowing the customer to come to any designated or centralized facility. It is clear that the City of LA functions or administratively has functioned best when there are emergencies in which a large amount of the bureaucracies are eliminated, because we deal with the emergency and merge a good deal of the decision-making in resolving problems rather than making decisions as it supports individual organizations or agencies in the city. And so a term that we begin to use in the police department is community-based government, as opposed to a term that's been bandied about in the last several years of community-based policing, which gives an impression that the police are in a direct correlation or responsibility to coordinate all city services, because many people have chosen to give us, whether we're dealing with youth programs or dealing with services that comes from public works or street lighting, we seem to find out about that information because of our 24-hour work effort as opposed to being responsible. But there is a need to move towards what we call community-based government, so that the government is decentralized and responsive and services are coordinated to address problems rather than to service the entity itself. The areas that impact the police department are most concerned is the powers of the chief of police as it relates to the selection, promotions, transfers, deployment, and termination of its personnel. And it's absolutely essential that those areas remain within the confines of the police department. If the chief of police is going to be responsible for the reaction and responsibilities of its people, we cannot rely on outside entities to have the impact as it relates to selection or promotions, transfers, or terminations. And that goes hand in hand with discipline. Although there's probably some streamlining of the disciplinary process that we need to go through, ensuring that we can come up with the same product of identifying officers that are employees who may have committed a misconduct. The issue is that that streamlining should not take the line of eliminating, again, an internal process that's mandatory for the chief of police to have the ability to run the organization. And just in conclusion, I think if we were able to give you a couple of ideas in the sense generically, it would really be that the charter has to reduce some of the restrictions, at the same time place accountability but not to lose the controls necessary to keep corruption out of city government. And so I think that, in broad generalities, would be a combination of the things that I'd like to leave you with. This process is so important to the police department that I have assigned Chief Croker, who has been labeled as a special assistant within the department, and he will be a regular member meeting with you, attending your meetings, and certainly bringing input back and forth from the police department to your commission. And so I think it's that important that we have assigned somebody at that level and with that level of skill to ensure that those issues that impact the police department are certainly part of the mix and the discussion, because often some issues may appear to be irrelevant, and when you change them or move them, it makes a major impact as it relates to how the chief can perform, and particularly having control of his personnel. And so those are some issues that I'd like to leave you with, and certainly let you know that we're certainly would be here to provide you any information, any way that you, as you get into that area of the charter that impacts the police department, we're more than willing to work with you in any fashion that you deem appropriate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, Andrew.
Chief Parks, you have recently been selected as the Chief of Police pursuant to the new charter provision, which, of course, was not the same charter provision when when we had the Chief Gates problem. My question is, would you, I know that you're probably satisfied with the new charter provisions, however, would you have any changes that you would like to propose regarding the selection of a chief?
Well, I think the issue is that the process, I don't believe, requires any changes. I think the activity around that position, what we have to be concerned with is that we do not go through every 5 years a major political process that we saw in the last one. I think that hampers and certainly negates the issues as it relates to what the police chief should be doing. The other area, and although the chief is out of the civil service, there is a need to find a way that the chief of police is not directly impacted in the sense of the political process, so the decisions are made based on thoughtful police administration and issues such as managing the organization, and that we do not get into what we see across the nation, our political chiefs that rise and fall with the change of mayors, and also make decisions that do not necessarily provide the best service to the city or provide the best direction, but merely do things to impact or keep their job. And I think we have to find some way to make sure that position is not on a string as it relates to every political whim within a particular city or organization. I think there's got to be some way that we resolve that, and I believe that when we put a system in place, what's important is that we have a confidence level of the people that may be present in government, but we also have to think in the future, if there are people that are in place that we have a little less confidence, are they going to cause the system to be turned in a fashion that we did not intend? And so that's why I mentioned there is a need to have certain controls, even though you're looking to streamline and certainly looking to place accountability, but also there's a need to ensure that there's enough controls that we do not experience the 40 years ago when the whole charter was developed, because, as they said then, the police department was the best department money could buy, and we don't certainly want to get back to that.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Chief. I want to remind those of you who want to speak to fill out cards and give them to staff members of the commission. Our next speaker is School Board Member Barbara Boudreau. I guess he's going to go up now anyway.
Thank you very much, Commissioners, both commissions. We're very pleased to have you in LA Unified for this meeting, and especially in District 1. Oftentimes, you've heard on the news, Barbara Boudreau, Inner City School District Board Member. I'm very proud of the Inner City. I'm very proud of the Mid-City that I represent. I'm very proud of the southern part that I represent. I'm very proud of the western part that I represent. However, in the news media, it's always the inner city, Barbara Boudreaux. I am proud of the inner city. I am proud to be your representative. But we represent all of the students in the district. So when you talk to a board member, they will talk about their districts, but they will also talk about all of the students that we serve. I have with us our newly appointed, and it was political too, and I was glad to hear Bernard mention that, extremely political. Because when the police commission was going through the process and called me and said, Barbara, you know, I think we will replicate what you have been doing at the school board. I said, please don't copy that. But anyway, they did. And so we do have a superintendent who hit the road, and he's been running ever since. And I want to introduce to you, and he will comment about some of the things for the district. I am the chairperson of the Cities, County, and Community Relations Committee for our board. I'm very proud to be the chairperson of that committee. I served as the chairperson of that committee when I was elected in '91, and now I'm the chairperson again. So our board will be very closely working with you. We want to work with you because you have heard some of the issues from the commissioners and from Councilperson Rita Walters about the school district being a part of the charter. We want to make sure that you make real good decisions for our children and our communities that we serve. Real good decisions. And that means that voting at large is not a good decision to think about for our district. We know what voting at large brought to this district. It only brought one group of people to make decisions for the students that we serve, and had no representation from the total broad community that we serve. And so if we go back to at-large voting, that means that we will never have a chance to have a minority board member on the board. And that is a fact. So, commissioners, we implore you not to go back to that divisive type of an election. We want to have fair representation on the Board of Education. And you have talked about extending the number of board members. We have 7. We don't fight to say that you want 8 or 9. However, 15 board members, we can't get a vote sometimes out of 15 city council members. So I don't know if you want to stir up that one, but that's your thought. Getting on the ballot is very difficult for a person running for the Board of Education. To me, when you look at LA Unified and find out that we are sprawled out larger than the city of Los Angeles with our representation, and yet we have to go out and get a lot of votes, a lot of signatures, it doesn't make sense. I looked at the last election that I was in when I was reelected. I received 36,000 votes for District 1. District 1. And yet a city council person won by only having 2,000 votes. Does that make sense? No. So we have to look very careful at that. We represent a lot of cities, not just LA, many, many cities. So look very carefully at that, because we will disenfranchise some of our cities where we represent the children and the families in other cities outside of Los Angeles. How will you work with that, commissioners? The other part, the big bucks, are the big bucks people running this city? Yes or no? We don't want big bucks people to run this city. We want the people who live in this city to run this city. We don't want big clout groups to run this city or self-interest groups to run the city. We want you to run this city for us, for all of us. And that means that if you're in my district, 10th, that I live in, the 8th, the 9th, the 6th, and go all through the 15, that means that the constituents we serve are equally
gaining the resources, the vast resources of this great city of Los Angeles. And no community is left out. No community. So if we talk about potholes, if I call and I'm in the ninth, I want you to fill my potholes and not fill my potholes after all of the other districts have been filled. So we're talking about equal resources for all, for all. And look at that because we want to respect the dignity of every constituent we serve and certainly be a role model for what we're all about, our students. And I want to introduce to you Dr. Ruben Zacharias. We call him Dr. Z or Dr. Zacharias, whichever you like. He answered to all.
Believe it or not, and forgive me, I have this cold, so I hope I can be understood. Believe it or not, I did not look at her notes, but she really said what I wanted to say, which shows that we're in sync. Let me first commend you, commissioners, and those sitting here. And it's been eloquently said by Councilwoman Rita Walters and by Councilman Mark Ridley Thomas, and again, by my boss. Yours is an incredible task. And I speak as a native Angeleno, born and raised here in this city. I was born in East LA, I've lived in South Central LA, I live in West LA, currently live in the Valley, and I have a pretty good pulse. I've seen the city grow, from where City Hall was the tallest building in this city to where today you don't know where City Hall is. If you were to ask me, and I have been asked, what would I ask as a final document, and as has been eloquently pointed out, this document, this Constitution, whatever its final form, will affect generations to come. If I were to ask anything, it's that document truly, truly represents the wishes of all peoples. Too often, we know that when it's all said and done, it's the more articulate, the more affluent, the more elite, the power brokers that finally have the final say. We, the people, deserve better because, and believe me, I have all the confidence in the world in you. Many of you sitting there, I know, and I respect you. I just urge that whatever process is used to come to a final document, that Constitution, that it truly, truly represent all people, not just the chosen, well-connected few that might have the final word. Now, as to the specifics in terms of how the charter reform might affect our school district, let me, and Ms. Boudreau really pointed it out, let me remind you that our school district encompasses 26 other cities other than the city of Los Angeles. So when we're talking about our school district and whatever we collectively have in mind in the way of revisions, keep in mind that we have to work whatever that final agreement is with 26 other cities in mind. Secondly, I would point out to you that, and she didn't, but I will, I really think, well, to begin with, you need to know that you have in that city charter the power to deal with compensation for board members. When I tell you, I've seen board members come and go in 30 years in my experience, and to think that this current board, which is supposed to be a part-time job, is truly a full-time job, not just Monday board meetings. We must keep in mind that this school board sets policy for an institution that represents $7 billion of taxpayers' money, represents and has to deal with the well-being and the safety and the educational opportunities for close to 700,000 students, preschool through high school, and another 300,000 in adult education. We are the second largest school district in the entire nation. When you consider that this school board has a responsibility for policies that encompass transportation. We serve 700,000 meals daily. We have more school buses running at 7:30 in the morning than there are MTA buses, and on and on and on. And I'm not suggesting that we pay them the salary of CEOs, although they deserve that. I am telling you that for a full-time job, $24,000 a year is ridiculous. And we need to deal with it, because the public deserves representatives that don't have to spend time out there doing part-time work elsewhere. It's too important a job for it to be a part-time job. And I'm not suggesting what that salary compensation should be. I will tell you that it needs to be a heck of a lot more than what we have now. So I simply ask you to be aware of the implications for 26 other cities, the salary compensation issue, and lastly, and Ms. Boudreau spoke to it, I know from experience, 7 board members is enough to deal with. Don't give me 15 or 20 or 30. I can tell you, as someone who has lived in every part of this city, I can tell you that these board members do a good job of representing their constituencies, but they also, and I'm very proud of them for this, represent, when the chips are down, they represent all children, because that is the bottom line of our business, representing children and their future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next special speaker is elected Charter Reform Commissioner Jackie DuPont Walker.
Good evening, Commissioners of the appointed Charter Reform Commission and Chairperson Kiefer, my colleagues on the elected Charter Reform Commission, our City Council members, Chief Parks, our school board members, all of the elected, appointed, and selected leadership of this community, neighbors, friends, and all stakeholders in the City of Los Angeles. Greetings. I said today to Chairperson of our commission, Professor Chemerinsky, did you know what you were getting into when you ran for this job? He is not at a loss for words often, but he did not answer me. I can tell you that I had no idea what I was getting into when I ran for this job. But in reflection, if I had known, I don't think it would have made a difference. You see, in the 25 years that I have been here in Los Angeles, I spend most of my waking hours in the 8th and 9th districts, and then sometime near midnight, I wander home to the 10th district where my bed is. We welcome you, therefore, to this community. And I say to you that it has already been a pleasure to work with Mr. Sunshine and with Estela Lopez and with my colleague from the 10th, Judge Reese, and with Marguerite Artsy Hudson, who wades waters in 2 different arenas. But we look forward to doing things in a much more dynamic way. I commit to this community that Councilman Mark Ridley Thomas gave us a very serious challenge, but we were already on the case. I read the comments from Chairperson Kiefer, and it is indeed what we have been saying since we came together. The greatest challenge for all of us is getting to know each other. I quite honestly knew more people on this commission than I did on the commission on which I serve. But in the weeks that we have been together, we have been engaged in honest and frank communication. We have pledged to bring our differences to the table, but to concentrate first on that which we have in common. And that is putting in place a city that is responsive, that understands the diversity of its people, and that wants to leave in place a quality community for our children and our grandchildren. This mission is important. This mission is essential. It is vital, and it is not an exercise in intellectualism. It is real. Tonight, you have come to engage in something we have wondered if people would pay attention to. And this is a first step for us. I tell you, we have to stay at bat and we have to stay at the plate if we're going to finish and have a success. We've got to link arms. We've got to deliberate and examine, not spend a lot of time debating, but listen attentively and speak and communicate well. We are pledged to work with this commission to bring a set of consensus choices to the ballot. I don't know that we can sit down and program that and give you a plan in advance. But I think if we all are diligent and take our task very seriously, the outcome will be something we can be very proud of. And so while I've always spoken very forthrightly about what I think, tonight is my first time speaking and realizing I'm on the other side of this table. And I'm here tonight to listen, not to tell you what I think, but to listen. And throughout these 18 months in the 10th Council District, make sure that I continue to listen. That's not a cop-out. That's perhaps a new way that we need to deliberate and make decisions in this city. Not always have our opinion, but to listen. And so let me just leave you with a commitment on behalf of all of the members of the elected commission to work diligently and faithfully with the appointed commission, to listen to you, to listen to all of the stakeholders, and to come forward with something that will make a difference in our lives. There is a little story I'd like to share with you of a young man who wanted to do something very desperately. And he knocked on the door of someone who could employ him to do this very important task. That person who was in charge said, "I'm just not sure I need you. I think things are moving along fairly well, and I think we can make it on our own." This little boy pleaded to do the job, and he pleaded so long and hard until the decision maker said, "Well, okay." And so as the days went on, it was his task to harvest the fruit and bring in the produce, and nobody paid attention, but he just kept doing his job. And days went by and months went by, and the little boy just kept doing his job. And then one day, a big disaster was on the horizon. And the employer went looking for the little boy to try to wake him up and say, "You've got to go out and do your job." The employer looked and found the little boy sleeping. And so the employer shook and shook and shook the little boy, and he couldn't wake him up. And so he decided he had to go out and do the job himself. But when he got outside, he found that all the work had been done, because the little boy had been very quietly moving about doing what was necessary. Don't look for us in the headlines, but know, like the little boy, we're going to be quietly moving about doing our job.
Our final special guest speaker before moving to public comment is Public Works Commissioner Valerie Shaw.
Good evening. I just arrived, so I haven't heard the presentations from everyone, and I have to say that I'm nowhere as near as eloquent as Jackie DuPont Walker. But I'm pleased to be here today to attempt to spend 2 or 3 minutes just to talk a bit about my concerns. Again, I'm Valerie Lynn Shaw. I'm Commissioner on the Board of Public Works. Public Works is one of the largest departments in the city. We have over 6,200 employees. We have a budget of nearly $1 billion. And we provide the basic city services. I am the pothole lady. You talked earlier about potholes. I am the pothole. If you need your pothole, call 485-3376.
Would you repeat that one more time, please?
485-3376. In addition to being the pothole lady right now, I've been a commissioner for 18 months. I work for a council person. I come from a family that's been very, very involved in civic life. And I've seen things, you know, from day one. My main point I'd like to make today, and this is something we talked about when you came to brief the commission, is that I hope you will use this process, this charter reform process, to build the civic infrastructure, to bring people back to government, to help people reclaim government. You know, people now have a lot of disdain, a lot of hatred, a lot of dislike for politicians and bureaucrats. And anybody who looks like a leader says they're a leader. There's a total disconnect. And I think your main opportunity, in addition to revising the charter and coming up with an administrative process that can improve the quality of our lives, is to really bring us together again as a city. You mentioned that I asked the question, what, other than coming up with the document, what is the other opportunity? And that opportunity, you said, Raphael, was to create an opportunity for a civic lesson, an opportunity to bring people back to government, an opportunity for people to participate in government. You know, my family came to Los Angeles nearly 100 years ago in the form of my great aunt, and I remember her well. She was 80 years old when I was born, but she used to take us down to Central Market, for those of you who remember in the past, and to MacArthur Park. And I remember, I was born in the 50s, the days in the 50s, but she came here at the turn of the century. My mother came here in the 30s to go to Jefferson High School, went back to Columbus, Ohio, married my father, and they moved out here in the 50s along with a lot of people who were looking for jobs and opportunity and freedom, the ability to sit where they want to sit and eat where they want to eat and have a house. And the last member of our family was born just 2 years ago. I have two young, a niece and a nephew who were about 20 months old. So my family has been a stakeholder here for 100 years. We feel connected. We've been a part of the civic life of the city. All of you here, I think the reason why you're here is that you've also been stakeholders and connected. But I think we've seen that wane in the last 10 years. We've seen that diminish. And so I want to, again, encourage you to use this reform process as an opportunity to rekindle that involvement. One of the things that I just want to say, read something that you have in your literature. So charter reform is not about this mayor or the city council, nor whom will be in office when charter reform is fully implemented. Charter reform is about the future, what the future requires of us, and what we desire of the future. In fact, it's less about us, but it's about the children. It's about keeping the city together. I echo those concerns. Now, what is the future of Los Angeles? And I want everybody to hold on to their seats, but we know that the future of Los Angeles is that between 70 and 90% of the population of the city of Los Angeles will be people of color, predominantly Latino. There are challenges ahead, and those challenges will be economic challenges, educational challenges, as Barbara Boudreau pointed out, racial challenges. We have to come together as a collaborative, people of color, all people, and have hope and create hope again, because I think we're losing that. I mean, a lot of us have lost that. You are the only formal mechanism that's new on the horizon that can rekindle that hope and to make it happen. And to change the image of government, because government really is us. Government is us. It's not the elected officials, it's not the commissioners, it's not, even the bureaucrats. We're all involved, but government is our citizens, working in tandem with government to make our lives better. This is an opportunity for you to do that. So I wish the commission best. I want to acknowledge the fact when I talked about growing up here, I grew up directly across the street from one of your commissioners, Judge James Reese. Our families are very close. He's been a part of my growing up and a wonderful part of that. I want you to begin to focus again on the importance of neighborhoods, because I think that's where a lot of the hope is. Revitalizing neighborhoods, revitalizing the city civic infrastructure, and if the charter reform process can be the vehicle that gives government back to the people, then I think it'll be a worthwhile process. Thank you very much.
I want to remind you to fill out cards if you want to speak. I have a number of speakers. As Marguerite mentioned earlier, we're going to try to keep enough time for everyone to speak, and so I'm asking for those of you who speak to keep your remarks to 3 minutes if you possibly can. First speaker is Perry Crouch, PhD. For those of you who are speaking, our staff member Paul is over here, and he'll help you keep track of time.
First, give an honor to God, who's the head of my life, to the commissioners. How you doing, Marguerite? You're kind of hopping a little bit. My main concern, first of all, with this whole charter thing is that, and I was looking at it, and I'm going to be perfectly frank, when we're talking about rewriting the Constitution, I'm extending my hand out to each and every one of you out there, and I want you to take this back with you. First, I want to pay homage to all of the trailblazers, which is our senior citizens, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to stand here today. But I think that as a young African-American male, we have failed you, and it wasn't all our fault, but we're going to try to correct that. But one of the main things before we can even talk about charter reform is we first of all must put in our beautiful city of Los Angeles, first of all, a stigmatization that we're the #1 bank robbery capital of the world. First of all, we have to get away from that stigmatization because we're encouraging all the undesirables from other states to come into our beautiful city and rob the people who work in the banks, who are just common people who's trying to feed and raise their family. We have to get away from that stigmatization. Secondly, we must first of all put in place in our charter, bar none, and I repeat that, bar none, a zero tolerance with violence in our city. And I mean that. I mean, we have to take this back, that not only in South Central, but in all of Los Angeles, that we have to have that documentation in our charter that we will not tolerate violence, whatever, in our community. This way, this gives Superintendent Dr. Zacharias, Barbara Bujold, Chief Parks, that gives the commissioner, that gives you a wedge in which to be able to carry out the decisions. And we are that village, and it takes a village to raise a child. And the only way that we're going to be able to make sure that our children get to the next millennium, which is the 21st century, is that they're going to have to be in a drug-free and a violent-free society, that they be able to go to schools and not be hampered and intimidated by people wanting them to join vicious gangs, and that people are not being predators out there making them become future drug dealers. We, as a whole, as a charter commission and as a community, need to work together to make sure that our seniors who have paid their dues can be able to walk to the grocery stores and not worry about some fool coming out of the closet and snatching their purses and robbing them. So I want to make sure that the charter, when you go back, one of the first things that I like to see that you do is, first of all, is to establish a citywide youth commission, which consists of Asians, women, Latinos, and African Americans. And secondly, that you establish a zero tolerance in our Constitution, in our charter, with violence in our community, that we will not tolerate it whatsoever. And I just want again to tell our seniors that it's our responsibility to make sure that you can go to the grocery store and you can ride the bus safely. And I'm appealing to everyone out there to join me in establishing a zero tolerance in the city of Los Angeles with violence. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Albert Williams, followed by Minnie K. Sweetgoings. Albert Williams.
Good afternoon, and I'd like to welcome you again to our community. and I'm going to make sure I can read his sign over there. I got my glasses on. I want to speak to you about the privatizing of city business. I'll speak to you from personal experience. I am a 35-year employee of the city. I've retired 14, 15 years now. We ran into that in the 70s when the city was building City Hall East. At that time, the building was an 8-story building. As you remember, they decided to extend it the stories that it is now. And that building was to be occupied by the fire department and the police department communication systems. My job at that time was a supervisor of communications for the city. And the city decided that they would put some of that work out for private contractors. And we had nothing to say about it, even though we had very qualified men to do the work. And we were going to be left with the maintenance of the system. So anyway, through the process, they did hire some private contractors. And we experienced that at that time, some of the employees were not qualified. They had very poor benefits. In fact, they practically had no benefits at all. And what we did is we recruited some of their best employees, introduced them to the Civil Service Commission, and if you call down there now, you'll find some of those same employees there working for the city. So I would strongly suggest that you would really consider not privatizing city work. We had to work all times of night, in the rain, cold, sometimes a tornado we had here, and the city employees were on the job. They never refused it, and they always were there. So I would think that you just should consider that. I'm kind of, okay, my time is up. Thank you very much.
No, you have a minute.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Minnie K. Sweetgoings, followed by Nell Ivory.
Good evening. Minnie Sweetgoings from Baldwin Village. Proud to be a resident within the 8th District. I've gone through the procedure before going to City Hall, and I know that the time that is allotted to the people is very little, 3 minutes and sit down. We came to a public hearing and expecting a short agenda, but we were given so little time to prepare. I anticipated this happening, and I'm submitting a written statement for record, and I brought along extra copies so that all could be able to see what it is that needed to be said if my 3 minutes is up. I want people to be told the truth. This commission is coming to the public overall, to people who are uninformed and unprepared to accept the amount of material that's being thrown over them. And this is primarily to validate locking in a non-governmental process into the future, which is a reduction of powers to the people, the right for the people to vote on the affairs, and to eradicate once and for all civil service employment. We're changing the way our government is operating into the future. The word flexible is selective. Private enterprise will not be accountable. Private enterprise does not have to be inclusive nor responsive to the public. Civil service sets employment standards for private enterprise, the last frontier for fair employments. Minorities are at risk. Privatization is a disguised monster. It's sugar-coated rhetoric, and that rhetoric was thrown in to replace some of the other things I would have preferred having said. Privatization does not reduce the cost of operation of our government. It's not cost efficient. It's a taxpayer's ripoff of millions, billions, and trillions of dollars. It's anti-labor, it's profit-oriented, and it's about global economy rather than economic development in this city. It's a hostile takeover of job security in civil service. It supports subcontracted labor, not full employment. And it's really efforts to avoid contracts and compliances out of Washington, D.C. I will try to finish this within my 3 minutes, but the wages will no longer be fair. It is encouraging more subcontracts. And for those minorities who are supporting these changes, it's fair to say that minority contracts will be minimized. Because if we allow a non-governmental process, then it'll be a government of the friends of the friends. And minorities will not get contracts nor full-time employment. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Sweet-Goings, we have a question here from at least one of our commissioners.
Yes,
and
sir.
if we could have copies of your statement, we will. And I would encourage also any of you who have any written materials, feel free to give those to us this evening or at any time. Yes, Marguerite.
Thank you very much for, is this mic on?
Yes.
Thank you very much for your comments, and I'm looking forward to reading them. I wanted to understand something I think you said in the beginning, which was that I think you said in forums like these, there's too much paper given to people. Did you say that?
No.
Could I quote you correctly?
This was a simplified form that came with simple things that people were prepared to speak to.
Okay, because I was
But food for thought came at us.
Right, so I was about to ask you, and you may not have at the moment, but I really would like to hear some of your ideas about both the timing and the ways in which we can better get information to people.
I would love to volunteer for one other thing.
Okay, but I think that'd be
I beat
really very helpful.
employees to work.
Okay, I think that'd be really helpful. I'd appreciate those.
Great, thank you
Okay,
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Nell Ivory, followed after that by Mrs. Mary Imelda Knowles.
Yes, I'm Nell Ivory. And as I look at all of you, I only know one person up there, and I'm angry and appalled that I only know one person, that they sent a committee down here. Should not have more power. And all the people should be elected so we can recall them if they don't do their job. That's another thing. I'm angry about this. I don't have a copy of the charter. How can I intelligently give you ideas of how it should be changed? Give me a copy of it. And then we can feed back to you intelligently. These 8 questions on here is your, a decision of what we should address to. We may need know something on the charter when we read it that we want to address. And another thing about private, on that other slip that I got, something about should city service be prioritized. No. The privatized service that we're getting now, near where I live, it's been 6 different contractors cutting our grass on the island. They come and cut it when they want to, once a month and all of that, and sweep it in the street. I'm taking somebody else's minute because this should be said. And 3 minutes is not enough for people to express to you what we need. However, it's this service and people come to do private concerns to do my service. We can't understand each other. They don't do a good job, and who do I call? I get a recording. I'm angry about that. And it's a lot of people angry because I go to hundreds of meetings, and I've been a citizen over 50 years of Los Angeles. And I think this change of the charter, reform of the charter, is to destroy Los Angeles. And I would like to know who, said that it should be changed. And I would like to have a dossier on all of you all, because I want to know whether you live in Brentwood, Orange County, or wherever, if you live in the city of Los Angeles or the county of Los Angeles, because you don't know our problem. And who appointed you, and who the appointed, and who the elected, and all of that, because I go around every day over this city, and the private concern from New Jersey, Arizona, Oregon and all that got the jobs, and they don't hire the residents of this city. They standing on outside looking in. It's not fair, and we're paying the tax. I think we should, everybody in the city of Los Angeles should not pay any tax, put it in a fund, and every job in the city should be under civil service in the city so you could get benefits and the ways that we should have. And don't destroy this city by changing the charter unless we read the charter. I don't know how many pages it is, 150,000. I'm willing to do it. But I'm angry about this whole mess that I don't know who sent it down, whether the mayor, the councilman, all of that. And I'm not satisfied with all of my elected officials. Give us the chance to read it and then give you the feedback.
All right. Excuse me. Ms. Archie, you have a question?
I wanted to, first of all, I think your comment that about wanting to know about the commissioners triggers for me that we really should at all of the meetings have a bio on commissioners, so just so you'll know, and I think I'm safe to say that we'll do that. But I want to get to your other question, Nell, because it's one that, I'm sorry, Ms. Ivey, I've known her a long time. I call Nell, I think.
Yeah.
No, but the question of how we get the charter in the hands of everybody is one that we all keep wrestling with, and we've talked about ways, and so I really want to know from you, and I hope other people tell us either now or later, how do we do, the charter, by the way, is about 490 pages. I say that not because that means much, except it's of some size, but what we really do need to know is where do we put it? How do we get it to people? That really is the question. I know that now everybody here, if everybody here were to say, we want you to send us a charter, we could take some movement, we could do that. But this is a small representation. A lot of people want to know that. So that's something we really do want some ideas on. How do we get it to people? Where do we put it? What vehicles, what methods? Because each, the elected and the appointed commission want to do that, want to do whatever we can to get the charter to physically to as many people, because you're right, whether you read it or not, people want to have it. We just don't know yet how to do that. So any suggestions would be truly helpful.
Send it to all the schools, send it to all the Board of Education members so they can put it out in their district or put it out in their school.
All right.
Send it to
They're in the
libraries.
They're in the libraries.
And public places.
Yeah, they're in the libraries.
Like your councilman's office. Your schools, your churches, and there's a lot of more that I can't think of.
No, but that's good. Okay, thank you.
Right.
But to make, I still say, you insult us trying to give us 8 questions to make an intelligent decision on the charter. How dare you insult us like that? I'm serious. I don't even know what's in the charter. And I don't know what you're trying to change. And you shouldn't change it. You should let us change it if we want to change it. And like I said before, I think every job in this city should be civil service, and everybody have a job. They should live in the county of Los Angeles, the city of Los Angeles. A lot of cities do that. But our money is being taken out of the city, and we residents are being destitute, and our city is being destroyed. And I think, and I allege behind all this charter reform, that's the reason you want to destroy our city. And I don't know who started it. I would like to know who put forth that. You know, that we should reform the charter.
Let me try to answer that as best I can, Ms. Ivory. This commission was appointed by the City Council of the City of Los Angeles with the charge to take a look at the charter and try to determine what was working and what wasn't in the charter and make recommendations to the City Council as to what changes might be made to make the charter work better for the city. We will go through a process over the next 12 months or so, after which time, and we will be holding hearings throughout the city. We will be then issuing draft reports for public comment and so forth later. It's probably in May where we'd come out with a draft report. We'll revise it after that and then turn that into the City Council. The City Council will examine the recommendations we've made and determine whether any of them or all of them should go on the ballot, which would take place as expected if there were any vote on such changes in April or June of 1999.
Well, I want to know why aren't community people involved on your committee. I don't see anybody up there but Marguerite Archie, and I've known her for years and years. And out of the neighborhoods, we know what we need. We know a lot of the changes.
Marguerite, yeah.
I want to say, thank you for that question. I want to say one thing that we intend to do. When I say we, I mean, I know I speak for people up here. I know I speak for the commissioners sitting in the office and the audience. I know I speak for Barbara Boudreau and for all of us. We intend to take this document physically into the community. We intend to sit in our block clubs, in our neighborhood associations, in our various organizations. And what we hope will happen is over the next couple of months, we can sit with you and say, let's set up a schedule. Let's talk about when we go to this place. Let's inform the public that on this Saturday morning, we're going to be at X block club, X school, X something. You're dead right. That's exactly what we all collectively intend to do. And I think in other communities, other commissioners intend to do the same thing. And so that's what I said earlier, that we don't cut it in terms of elected versus appointed commissioners. We cut it in terms of we're going to all work together and make sure that we do have the block clubs, we do have the homeowners association, we do have every entity, the political clubs and the churches, and so we need to schedule all of that, and we want your help on scheduling it. We want to know everybody in here who has something in their mind that they want us to show up at. Let us know, because we want to show up at all those places. We want to sit down, few people at a time, more than a few people, whoever, to go through, as you said, piece by piece by piece by piece by piece. This is the first cut on the large issues, but as I said earlier, the issues that we finally end up with really are going to be directed by the citizens who say, for example, I'm not interested in the notion of whether the mayor or the city council should have more power. I'm interested in why I can't get my streets clean or swept or whatever. So that in the final analysis, the document is going to be something that is a product of our mutual deliberation. So we expect to spend a lot of time doing exactly what you said, Nell, in every arena we can. And it's going to be very important that everybody in this room who has one person or three people or five people that we want to sit together, let us plan to do that. Let me commit to you that we all intend to do that.
And we need your phone number and your address so we can get in touch with you. Because I don't want to only get in touch with you when you have a meeting. I like to come down to your office when I have a problem. Because I'm a community person, as I said, been over South Los Angeles, whatever you want to call it, ghetto, and all over the city. I've been here over 50 years. And I don't want to be sandbagged.
All right. We have, I've got your, excuse me, just one moment. Jose, let me just, I've got all the cards here, people who have signed up. We have addresses, and we're going to direct the staff to get out a list of the commissioners with addresses and so forth to all those who have signed up and anybody else who would like to know where they can reach the commission and the commissioners. Yes, Mr. D'Souza.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is for the benefit of the last speaker and also for the public. We need to first give them the telephone number of the commission. I think that should be announced now so that everyone in this room has that telephone number. If they have any questions, they can call our executive director, and he and his staff will be more than happy to help them. Secondly, the last speaker mentioned that she did not recognize but one person on this commission. And I think you need to know that the members that you see present here in this commission, this appointed commission, we were elected by our respective city council person from each of the councilmatic district. I represent the 7th district. I'm from the San Fernando Valley in Pacoima, and that's why some of you may not recognize me, because I come from Pacoima. That's the district that I represent. But I not only represent that district, I represent the city of Los Angeles on this commission, all of you. And that's why I'm here tonight. Now, the other members represent other councilmatic districts, and then we had 3 or maybe 4 other members that were appointed by the president of the city council. So I think you need to understand why there are faces here that may appear to be strange to you and you do not recognize them, is because we come from different parts of the city of Los Angeles. And I could not sit here and not let that be made clear to you, because you believe that we should all be someone that you know, but we represent the entire city of Los Angeles. But when we are working as one group for one purpose, and that's for the entire city of Los Angeles, and not South Central, the Valley, or the harbor. We're working for the entire city of Los Angeles, and I have to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to give the phone number, Rafe?
Yes, I'm happy to do this. I'd like to give the phone number of our office first, which is area code 213-367-5234, and I'll repeat that. Area code 213-367-5234. Our fax number is 213-367-5164. That's 367-5164. And we also have a phone line which it's automatic, operated 24 hours a day for people to send in any ideas and thoughts that they have, and I'd like to give you that number as well, which is area code 213-367-5115. And I brought a large number, as many as I could find, of my business cards to pass out in case, which has all these numbers on it. But that's 213-367-5115. And I'd like to also say that we have a report called Road to Decision that Chairman Kiefer pointed out early on, which was our attempt to take the charter, which is not easy for us to understand. Believe me, it's a very complicated document. I'm not entirely sure I always understand it myself. We're doing the best we can with it. We tried to put it in the form that would be accessible, that we can all discuss as a commission and with the public. We have brought what we thought was a large number of copies. I believe we have, do we have some in the back, Jason? Copies of the report? And they're here for you to take with you. If we run out, if you call that number and leave us your name and address, we'll send you the report free of charge.
That's this report.
And that is this report right here. Okay. Yes, all those phone numbers should be on the pamphlet that's out in the hall as well. And there's a lot of material out there that I hope you'll have a chance to get hold of. But if you don't get it, please call us and we'll be happy to send it to you.
Yeah. Our next speaker is Mrs. Mary Imelda Knowles, and she will be followed by Walter Richardson.
All right. Good evening to all of our elected officials, dignitaries. I dare not call any names lest I fail to mention anyone. My name is Mary Imelda Knowles. I've been a resident of this area for 52 years. I have lived in my home 49 years. I've been a volunteer in the community since 1953 when I joined the PTA, and I have ascended to a senior citizen of my area. I'm the oldest homeowner on my block. I'm not the oldest woman now. I'm the oldest homeowner on my block.
We got it.
Now, I am a constituent of Honorable Rita Walters. I work in several capacities for her, the Library Board, the Council on Aging, and all of her other things that she asks me to volunteer in. I also work with the 77th Street Police Department, of which I am a vested member, a block club president, CPR on our advisory board, 12A49 car. Also, I'm on the CPAB and ta-da. Whatever they call me for, I'm there. We work diligently in our community. For the good news, we do have our potholes filled, thanks to Rita Walters. I call her when we have one. We also have town hall meetings from Rita Walters. She keeps us abreast of the happenings in our area. We get newsletters from Rita Walters. These are the good things, and despite all of our work, we still have problems. With our 77th Street Department Police, they are at our beck and call because we work with them. We know our captains. They come to our homes. We know our police department. And we know the men by their first names, you know. So we are in partnership, what you call CPPS, Community Police Partnership, that is working to help bridge the gap between our people, the community members, and the police department. So we are having a very good success in that genre. However, we still have problems. Where we had conquered our prostitution, Figueroa is the prostitution alley of Los Angeles, beginning, I would say, around 20th all the way out to Century. We ran them away from here, so they took Century from Figueroa to the airport. However, they are popping up again. And my husband is taking me to church on Sunday. He brings the car back, and the lady of the night is standing there. Would you like to talk to me? My husband is a senior citizen. Now, why would she want to bother him, you know? And I don't know these answers. But what I'm trying to say is they walk down Figueroa, and then they walk down, they make a block around, you know, around the 62nd, up 61st, and we have to sit there and look at these ladies of the night and all of attire, you know. So that is back. Also, we have narcotics. Despite our good policemen, they take one house down, and before you know it, it's popping up again. Now, we want to know from this, the schools need addressing also. We have overcrowded schools. Even though I am a great-grandmother, I still have the interest of our children that attend elementary school in our hearts. And I work diligently with our community to upgrade the lives of these children. I'd like to know from you tonight. I am happy to welcome you, but I would also like to know, in the course of time, are our voices going to be heard, or will they be trickled down to a whisper when you get down to the problems of our area, and will our problems be addressed? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Walter Richardson, followed by David Gutierrez.
Good evening. I'm Walter Waldos Richardson. I am the chairperson of the Los Angeles Unified School District Advisory Committee representing Title I students. I'm also the vice chair of the Parent Collaborative. I have something to say in behalf of parents tonight. Parents want to be heard. Los Angeles is unique. It's unique in the fact that we're not afraid to walk up and take the lead. And as you know, we do set examples all across the nation. Los Angeles has the first ever parent collaborative, a parent community service branch, where we have brought all parents, all ethnicities together in order that we might be able to collaborate and make this intelligent decisions regarding our children's education. It is not perfect. However, we are thriving each day to make it better. Do we need another board member? We need a parent representative. We do have board members representing our parents, but let's understand something. Parents are the product that present the children to the Los Angeles Unified School District and all other districts. If it's pertinent enough to have a child, one of our students, to sit on the board and give student concern, surely it's more important also to have a parent representative to tell you from a parent perspective what it is that we want for our children. Parents might not be educated, but certainly they know what it is that they want for their children. They know what it is, what's best for their children. You tell us that if we whip our children, we go to jail. But it's all right for you to kill our children and send them to hell or wherever. We suggest to you that you would make sure that when you reforming the charter, and I commend you on the job that you've done, and you have a very challenging job, but you need to have a parent perspective there of the participating child, because you, as a business person, as a constituent, as an educator, Your perceptions is different from that of a parent. Your perception is different from that of a teacher. Your perception is different than that of a board member. And it goes on and on. If parents are the product, I think it's time that we stop trying to dig at the top when you need to start at the bottom. How can you build a house by putting the roof on first when you haven't put a foundation? Secretary Riley, Secretary of Washington, D.C. of all education, he made a statement. He said the horse is dead, and we're still trying to ride the horse. I suggest to you that we put the dead horse down and get us a new horse, and let's ride this horse, but let us have input from everybody on what is going to be best to feed that horse, because everybody don't know what it takes to feed that horse. And I would say this, until you walk on my street, until you walk in my shoes, until you live in my house, you can't tell me what's best for me. We have left out two very important concepts. Number one is the senior citizen. They are the founders of this country. And yet and still, when they get old, you push them aside in a corner and say, now you go be quiet now. And the children, which is the future of this country, we won't educate them. We use rhetoric because we have gone away from basics. I don't care how much modern technology that you use. I don't care how much, whatever you use, until we return back to the basic. Our children have to know how to read and write. They need to know how to add and subtract. And until that happens, I don't care how much high technology that you do, nothing is going to change the fact in making things better. If you educate our children, there will be less crime. That's the problem. We build bigger jails, but we don't come up with no type of institution to help create a play area or something constructive for our kids. We need something constructive for our children, for them to be able to play, for them to be able to go and do an educational project. I'm from Louisiana. We had educational centers. When a kid got out of school, they could go over to a recreation center and have supervised recreation, and no gangbangers came in and took it over. We have the wrong concept about life and about what is good and what is right. There's an old saying, if it's not broken, don't fix it. We keep breaking things, and then after we break it, we want to try to put all the pieces back together. I suggest to us that we take a good look at what is going on and what is happening in our community. I'm a resident of Los Angeles for 36 years. I'm a homeowner. So therefore, I have an invested interest here. Parents have an invested interest. And I hope that as you're making your decision and all that you're doing, that you would truly consider having a parent representative. I don't just mean having input. I don't mean after the fact. I mean from the very beginning stage. We have a serious problem. We want to, well, look, this is what we have come up with. So what do you think about this? That is not parental involvement. That is not being involved. You have came up with a finished product, and then you tell me, what do I think about it? I don't think nothing about it, because you haven't allowed me to express my own ideas. Let parents express their ideas, and if you don't like what they express, then tell them that you have a better plan, and we can go along with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask?
Really?
Yeah, Ms. Richardson.
Yeah, Marguerite Archie, you have a question?
Well, Ms. Richardson, I was really interested in the Parent Collaborative, and I think we want to know more about it, not necessarily tonight, but I'd appreciate it if you could leave us a phone number or something so we can get in touch, because it seems that if this is, as you described that group, that's exactly the kind of group that we're talking about having some real dialogue with. So we really would like to have a dialogue. Okay. Ms. Boudreau said that she would be able to, obviously, that's one of the ways that she would be able to facilitate this discussion, and I think that's something that we exactly would want to do. So thank you.
I'd be happy
thank you, Ms.
to
Boudreau.
furnish
Yeah.
you with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you. Next speaker is David Gutierrez, followed by Dermot Givens.
Good evening. I'd like to speak to the point on your agenda, should the charter provide for neighborhood councils? 6 years ago, being a citizen of Los Angeles, being born and raised here. About 6 years ago, I was wondering where our life was going, my life was going to in Los Angeles. I was not involved in anything. I got involved in our block club, and I found out the interest of our neighborhood. We've cleaned up the blight, we've cleaned up the drug traffic, we've cleaned up the prostitution in my particular neighborhood. What is the answer? Individual citizen participation. I recommend that in the future charter that you do include neighborhood councils. Even though in the pyramid of life, we might have the elected officials at the top, we have to look at the pyramid of reality, where we put the individual citizen, as myself, at the top, with the leadership that we can give to our public officials. I'm very involved in my neighborhood. I'm involved with CRA as an elected official of our elected official representing my neighborhood in Adams Normandy 4321. Being involved in that CRA project for 8 years now, I've seen the good that we can do as public citizens that jump on the bandwagon and get involved. I don't sit at home and watch TV. I go to the public meetings. I go to the CRA meetings. I go to the block club meetings. And since Mark Riley Thomas was elected the first time, being a member of Council District 8, living in his district, I jumped on the bandwagon and I got involved with Councilman Mark Riley Thomas's empowerment plan. I ask that you do look at his empowerment plan in detail and find out what we do, the leadership team of his 4 areas, because we've really changed the city in Los Angeles. We really have. Think about the 3 steps. 1, not necessarily in this order. 1, educate the public. By education, I don't mean teaching necessarily reading and writing and arithmetic. I mean teaching about how to communicate and work with public officials. Because in a democracy, the public must be involved. They must be asked to be involved and welcome when they want to be involved. That's another reason we need neighborhood councils. Another step would be to engage. That's asking or even telling the people, the person, do you want to be involved? Join us, and we'll make this a better community and therefore a better city in Los Angeles. And another step, empowerment. Give the public empowerment so that they could have the right to do and make decisions for their individual neighborhood. And as a member of Mark Riley Thomas's leadership team, it's a wonderful example of what he's doing for our city, because I, David Gutierrez, am able to attend his meetings, our North Area leadership team meetings, and we make specific recommendations on how we can change our neighborhood. And things are changed. It's that simple, because the public gets involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jermont Givens, followed by Jesse C. Taylor, Jr.
Honorable commissioners, elected officials, members of the audience, greetings from Assemblymember Rod Wright, and welcome to the 48th Assembly District. While Assemblymember Wright sends no specific suggestions, Assemblymember Wright encourages you, as you carry out your duty, to provide a new framework that moves Los Angeles forward by drafting a new charter, that you always take into concern how your efforts will particularly affect the people of the 48th District, which encompasses South Los Angeles. By meeting here tonight, we know you are sensitive to the concerns of the people in our community, be it a Stiles Logan, a Victor Torres, a Henry Yee, and Ann Shaw, and all the other members who have a stakehold in the city of Los Angeles and our community. Assemblymember Wright congratulates you on your efforts, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Clint Simmons, followed by Deborah Allen.
What happened to Jesse? Oh, he wanted to speak towards the end, that's right.
He wanted to speak at the end. Clint Simmons. You called the next speaker.
Yeah, but I realized he did have a note.
Good evening. My name is Clint Simmons. I'm representing Concerned Parents and Community for a Better Education. One question I'd like to ask, we have 2 commissions. One was appointed, the other one was elected. Which one is in charge? How can something be done when you have 2 commissioners working on the same project? That's a question that hasn't been answered, and I'd like to know why and how could it be answered. As an old military person, I'm not accustomed to you have two people in charge. You can't have that.
Probably part of the, we'll try to answer that. Part of the answer is probably neither of us is in charge.
Okay.
The appointed commission was appointed by the city council, the city controller, and the city attorney to report to the city council making recommendations for charter reform. The elected commission was approved in April and June of this year, elected by the people to propose directly on a ballot what charter changes should be made. So we have two different directions for those. The council will make its determination based on our recommendations whether there should be something put on the ballot or not and what form that would take based on recommendations we would give to them. In the end, the public will vote on the charter reform recommendations, whether they're made by either the appointed commission through the council or the elected commission directly to the people. In the end, it'll take a vote of the people to approve any changes to the city charter.
Okay, at the outset of the two different commissioners, there was a great deal of political wagging, and therefore it was a confusing thing, and is confusing now. And I, as many others, asked a question just precisely what will come out of it. One of you are funded, the other one is not funded to a point where it should be. So it makes it extremely difficult for me to understand what is going on. It's almost a sham in many respects. So really, what is the basic for this? What is the real purpose? What are they after? The major concern that I have and others is our education system, which is at a point of a cesspool status at the present time. And it's my understanding that you are being advised by the United Teachers of Los Angeles Teachers Union, and they have their own biases that they're interested in doing, and they are guiding and advising you and dictating you, and I don't see how anything at all can benefit the kids in that respect. Now, here's the state of California as well as the nation. We're trying to get some standards for our kids to follow. And it's my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong or not, that they are advising you how to handle it, what to do with the schools. What I'm hearing is...
Let me try to answer that.
Increasing the board.
The problem is we don't have... It's such an unusual statement because there's no one advising us in that capacity from the school teachers unions or any other organizations. We're taking input from everybody we possibly can in every community we can. But I know of no particular advice or recommendations or direction coming from any of the school unions at all.
Okay, well, how did this expanding the school board out to 15 people come about? That's something else that is being kicked around here now. Well, it looked to me, I'm not a native of Los Angeles. I came out with the Air Force somewhat 43 years ago, I guess. At the time when I came out, the only tall building was City Hall, and we used a beacon for navigational purpose, so you know how long that's been. But I have seen a great deal of change that take place. And the purpose of the commission, as I see it, and others, is to get involved with charter reform and change. When I left the military, was that Eisenhower advised people to be concerned about the military-industrial complex. Now we're concerned about the union and educational complex, since that's where the money is located. And our kids are being shortchanged, and if anything that we're going to do, we must look in terms of how we're going to handle our education change here. And when you have politics involved, I can't see how we're going to benefit in that regard. We have two commissions. Near the end, when you write up your report, if that's the one that's going to be accepted, then you will find some of the politicians saying, wait a minute, that is not what we want. And then they say, well, since we can't agree, I'll just go ahead and make the decision. That is what I think is what would happen. The mayor would do that, say, well, since we can't get no consensus on it, we have two commissions, I'll go ahead and make the decision in that case. And so again, the public and the parents would be denied. As far as the city and the school itself, when you have something real big, there's a problem. So we need to have things smaller. I'm a strong believer in that the school district is too big. Even the city of Los Angeles is too big. Maybe the valley should break away. That's one thing. That's one way or another. Maybe politically wise, something smaller, you can manage it better. When you got something big, you can't manage it at all. And it is a shame that we have students and the amount of money that we're spending graduating every year, and it's difficult for them to even recognize their own names. So we have a problem, a real serious problem. And that is where we should be concentrating on the future. The future is the kids. And I will entertain any question that anyone may have. I think you was holding your hand up there, Ms. Archer. I don't know if you...
Well, with the Chair's Commission, I'm not so interested in raising a question, Mr. Simmons, as
Yeah.
I want to say that everybody has asked the question legitimately, how come we have two commissions? And the short answer is because there are two processes that brought us together. One is that the City Council, using its statutory authority, appointed a commission. All commissions prior to the vote of the people were appointed. We all know that. That's what our charter provides for currently. Whether it will in the future is a decision we will all make. But at the moment it does. At the same time, there was put on the ballot, and there was a real fight about it, but the argument prevailed that the people should choose a commission, and the people did.
That's right.
To me, it means a very simple thing. Whether we're elected, whether we're appointed, what's real clear is that our job is to create a vehicle for debate about what the charter does in terms of its service to the people of the city. This is our Constitution, and we ultimately will have to decide what goes on it. Most of us, whether we were elected, and I'm both, whether we're on the elected charter commission or the appointed charter commission, recognize that this public process must be real, as Commissioner DuPont Walker said earlier. And that's one of the reasons we've said this charter discussion has to happen in every single solitary nook and cranny of the city. And what we all hope, we don't know the configuration yet, is that both charters will work together to bring to you in some form, maybe a constitutional convention at the end, maybe some town hall, something at the end where finally the people actually get to look, and we hope vote in some fashion on what should really go on the ballot. We're all dead serious when we say that we want this to be, if it's going to be reformed in any particular way, a reform that speaks to the voice of the people. And just let me say one thing about those 10 questions. It may be that by the time this ratchets down, those are not the 10 questions. There might be 10 other questions that are on the that constitute the charter. There might be 20 questions. There might be a lot of things. We don't profess to know all of the things that ought to be in the public debate. Our job initially was to do the quick read, the first read, and say, based on the conversations with people, the hearings, what people have said in phone calls and whatever, these are the current 10 questions that keep cropping up all the time. But I assure you that we all want to make sure that we all debate this question. And I don't want us to get trapped into this business about whether it's the appointed commission or the elected commission. That sounds to me like whether it's the city council or the mayor, whether it's South Central or the Valley, whether it's bilingual ed or not. My take is our question has to be, what will this charter do to give power to all of us in the city? That really is the question. We got to keep that in our mind and not get trapped into, and what you ought to say, as so many of you say so well to all of us, whether you were elected or appointed, do your work. And part of your work is to bring this document in every way we can to the people of all these communities. Allow us to tell you what should ultimately be in the charter. That truly is what we all are pledging for. And I speak for the elected commissioners and the appointed commissioners when I say the reason we're all doing this job for 18 months without a dime, keep that in mind, without one single dime, is because we all believe that this is one chance that we all have to make sure that this city lives up to its promise for everybody. So I just want to reiterate again, I wish we had all the answers about who prevails. As Mr. Kiefer says, the people prevail. And that is exactly what should happen. And I think that's what we should keep in mind. And we don't want to get, we're not going to get trapped into sort of fighting each other about whether we're elected or appointed. We're all working to make sure that we serve the needs of our communities. And I think that collectively is what we're going to pledge to you.
If what you say is true, then why is it that the 4 meetings that you held has always been the appointed ones? The elected ones has not sit with you in the audience up there. We elected them to help make the charter.
We have asked,
but they are not the ones doing it. And these are the questions that I think should be answered, because I would like to know myself as one
Let me say that the minute the elected charter, and both charters are working together, the minute the elected charter agrees that it wants to sit up here, it will. We have got a joint committee working. We met today to talk about all those issues. Do we want to do all this whole process together? Some people on both commissions think we do. Other people don't. We have to work all of that through. But however we do it, ultimately we are all clear that we're going to do the public's business. And the other thing we really want to hear from all of you is, how do you think these these commissions should work together? Some of us in various communities have natural kind of working order. School board member Boudreaux, Commissioner DuPont Walker, Ridley Thomas, Council member Walters, Assembly member Wright, all of us who have historically come together with all of our neighborhoods and all of our groups are going to all work together. That's what we do on this side of town. We've always done it. We will continue to do it. And when Commissioner DuPont Walker and I go out and Judge Reese and DeSosa and all the rest of it, we're not going out as elected versus appointed members. We're going out as charter commissioners who are supposed to do the job. I think most communities will do that. And so after a while, the lines are going to blur. And when it gets to the final document about, can we have a common document, we're all struggling with whether we can present one document. You heard Mr. DeSosa ask a very hard question earlier tonight, but it's a question that has to be on the table. It's a question that we can't answer yet because authorities were different. But just as you're wrestling with those questions, we're wrestling with those questions.
Okay, well, one question, one statement you did make, you indicated, you named the people that work with you, the Wrights, Boudreaux, Walkers, and et cetera. What about those of us who are common folks? What input do we have in things like that?
I always include the community. I haven't.
Well,
we're all a part of this working together.
I think, Mr. Friedman, you have a question?
Well, no, I have an explanation. I would like to add something to what Marguerite said.
Go ahead, yeah. Go ahead.
I really think that the people have a triple influence on this Charter Commission. First of all, I have heard some wonderful things said about Rita Walters here tonight. I have heard some wonderful things said about Mark Ridley Thomas here tonight. Well, we are the extension of Rita Walters and Mark Ridley Thomas, because Rita appointed one of us here, and Mark appointed another one of us here. So if the public voted for Rita and Mark, we are the extension of Rita and Mark. That's one way. The second way is that each and every one of you will have the right to vote on what is being recommended by the elected commission and also the commission that has been appointed. So in essence, the people have a triple way of changing the charter or not changing the charter. One is via the elected officials that they have elected who have appointed us. Second is by our making the suggestion, and then you're voting on that after the council looks in. And the third, by the elected commissions. So in my opinion, it is the people, and not us, but it is the people who are making the final decision, and the input is via the council people by the individual people.
Well, I'm glad you made that statement, but you know as well as I know, you say the people are making a decision. That is not the case at all. This is a political thing, and as the lady indicated, you find the political people get together, and then the common folks will follow them in that regard. So irregardless as to what you do, you get out campaigning for it, it's going to be a political thing. Right. It's not something that you're going to do as beneficial to the community. It's going to be a political thing. Mr. Simmons, and if anyone say it's not, then you're being disingenuous with us here in that case. Yes,
I want
to
make sure, I had a couple of people when I walked out, make sure that I made sure that they got on to speak.
No problem.
But thank you very much. It was a good exchange. We have next Deborah Allen, followed by what looks like, I'm not having trouble reading this, Mr. and Ms. Lucky. I want to remind you that we're putting time limits on so that people all get a chance to speak. And I don't want to be absolutely mandatory about the time, but I would ask all of you to pay attention to the time, and the gentleman over here, Mr. Gerard, as we're going through this. Deborah Allen.
Okay, hi. My name is Deborah Allen. I'm a resident of the 8th District, a member of the 8th District Empowerment, and I'm also a city employee. My concern basically is towards civil service in the areas where at the lower level of employment of civil service employee, many of us employees reside in the city of LA, in this community, other communities, but within the city of LA. In the mid-level areas of civil employment or the executive level of civil service employee, many of the persons that are in those positions, those decision-making positions, do not live in the city of LA. They live in the county. They live beyond the county of LA. And when you start looking at those $50,000 and $60,000 salaries that are being derived from many of us who may be taxpayers who are supporting the tax base here in the city of LA, that money, their salaries are going outside of our city. And many of us have not abandoned the city, and we chose to, work for the city and reside in the communities, be involved to improve our city. And many times the individuals in these decision-making positions are making adverse decisions that impact my life every day. And it's frustrating being a civil service city employee, being involved in the community and having to go through this where you're more in tune with your neighbors or your community, and then you have to, in order to be employed, I have to go along with the decisions that are made. So what I'm asking the charter to look into is when you get to that part of the charter in terms of accountability and in terms of our civil service managers, mid-level or whatever, I hope that you all will put some accountability measures, whether it be a payroll tax, because those $50,000 or $60,000 are supporting tax bases outside of the city of LA. So I think if someone's going to make a decision that impacts my life, the city of LA, there's a lot of qualified employees, and we're all not shiftless and lazy or whatever the stereotype of city employees. Some of us are very dedicated, and we're out there every day, and we're trying to provide quality services to our citizens of LA. But it's just a frustrating process. So I'm here tonight, sort of, and I know I probably get in trouble later, but I just want someone to consider or put some checks and balances in that. If you're making $50,000 or $60,000 and above and you're working for the city of LA, either you should give some of that money back in terms of, and this is being very progressive, a payroll tax, or you should move back in the city and help the rest of us fight to improve the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker I have, I believe I'm reading this properly, is Annie Lucky, followed by Mr. Phillips, or Ms. Phillips.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I happen to be one of the past presidents of this school, PTA. I live across the street from the school. I'm also a nurse, and I've never left this community. I've never left it. I'm doing things like on my own. If you know Mrs. Gonzalez at the trash collection place, she can tell you I call her every week to pick up things that doesn't even belong to me on my street. I just look at the address, and then she'll take care of it. I do my part as a citizen privately, but I'm really concerned about the children. These children are our future. And I don't have to go into any details about what's happening to our community as role models. I don't need to, because I know you're very intelligent enough to know that. Like I say, I'm a nurse, so you know I know a lot of things that some of you don't know. So please, whatever you're thinking about, please don't forget these children, because it doesn't matter what race they are, they still need to grow. And they will grow if we let them. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Lucky. The next speaker, I believe, is Akinwale Phillips, followed by Elizabeth McClellan. Akinwale Phillips, followed by Elizabeth McClellan.
Good evening. My name is Akinwale Phillips.
I'm originally a Nigerian. It looks to me wherever I move, I get into a corner. Since I moved to South Central early, some 30 years ago, this is the first time I hear of anything like this. And I picked this piece of paper just by accident. And I said this surreptitious method is a fair way of leaving most of the people out of the decision. It looks as if this has been packaged, just like offering our prayer to God. You just say it, and He approves it. This method has been packaged that whether we like it or not, we have no choice. How do you make a choice where there's no choice? How do you decide on a charter that you know nothing about? I'm not as educated as many of the people I'm looking at the table, but I work as a nuclear engineer, and I know little about what we're doing. And I've lived in this area for almost 30 years. If this Constitution is about the future, why is it not diversified? There are many more officials in here than even common citizens. And go out to our streets and see the type of people you see. Are they represented in here? If this is about the future, the Constitution, the law that governs all of us, where are the children? Can this one be found in the libraries? Can this one be found in any of the colleges? Can I download this one from my website? How am I supposed to know? If after having 4 or 5 degrees, I do not understand even common thing, how then does a truck driver get to know this? So it looks to me as if just coming here with no information is kind of a repetitive stance that you want to do what you want to do. You say you have 2 bodies. One is elected, one is selected. There are no 2 things that is ever equal, even ordinary number. So who takes precedent over the other? And if you have 2 dogs fighting over 1 bone, if they have equal strength, then nobody picks up the bone. If this one is supposed to be done, there had to be order. We know in the law of the universe there is chaos before you find order. Who comes first, the chicken or the egg? So there must be some precedent that we need to know what we are doing. And I keep asking myself, why am I dark? Why am I always at the corner? Why is it when I get there that nothing happens? South Central here, I belong to the Homeowners Association. We are trying to clean out our neighborhood, and we've been having dry meetings for the past 2-3 years. We never heard of anything like this. And when you look at it, the representation, and you look at the color of the people standing, who represents who? Do you live here? Do you know here? Do you know what we are going through? So I was thinking that the children need to have been represented in this, if they are the future. Because by the time we are all gone, thank you, sir, they will be here to do something. We need to make this one available. Even if it was going to be a party, I believe the word will be out all over the place for all of us to attend before we can come. For something this serious, we need to have known about it, that is in passing of the children. I'm also thinking that the new law coming out that everybody has got to work. It costs some of us to live where we belong to belong to America. If you are an American, you ought to have a right to job. If you are an American, you have this social security number, it ought to be your qualification to work at anything that will make you pay for your living. There are no free access to anything here. So why can't some people earn? Why is it the same set of people? I believe you said something about serving free for 18 months, and I'm wondering there's nothing free in America. And you can work for free for 18 months? No, you must be paid one way or the other by those ones who selected you or elected you. If not, nobody gets a free lunch around here. And if you know, please give me the address where I can get a free lunch. So, now concluding in my time, I would have said that if this is the Constitution, plus who it is or not, if particularly you take our environment into consideration, we need to be fairly represented. The number of official representation in here, if you take all of us out of here now, this room will be empty. It's lopsided. We need more information, please. Give it to us, serve it to our children, put it in the school library, put it in the colleges, make it available so that we can look at it and then make suggestions. The best way to make a road is to let the people cross and see their footpath where they are walking through. Then you can construct a road over there. If not, if you put a road in a corner and nobody wants to, we want all to go by the shortcut, we are not going to use the road. Please be more amenable to us, give us this information, and do not decide for us and ask us to rubber sand it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to ask, we've struggled with the process of disseminating information, and I wanted Rafe Sonnenschein to talk a little bit about how we're trying to make this available, and we're making notes so that we can increase that availability.
Yeah, thanks for the chance to do that. Paul, I'd like to ask you for a second, if you don't mind. I assigned Paul Gerard, one of our staff members, the task of finding all the places that the charter is available, which I'm sorry to say, it's not the easiest document to get access to, even for people working in this, but including how to get it on a website. Paul, do you mind quickly taking a microphone? And then I'd also like to point out that our website, which will provide access to all the information that's here, plus whatever information we have in our files, will be up within a matter of days. And if you call our phone number, we'll be able to give you information on how to get access. We're very excited about that. We're about a day or so from having that up and running. But Paul, if you'd explain where the charter can be found, including the websites.
The charter can be found at all branches of the public library. They're on reserve, so they will never leave the library. You can always find it there, use it there, and it's publicly accessible. It can also be found on a website. The address is www.codesite, CODESITE.com, C-O-M. That's the website of Brackett Publishing, who publishes the charter. Again, the website is www.codesite.com. And on that website, you'll find the charter, the municipal code for Los Angeles, and the administrative code for Los Angeles as well. And the charter can also be purchased through Brackett Publishing. And if you call our office, I'll be happy to send you a one-page memorandum instructing you how you can go about purchasing either a hard copy or a soft copy of the charter. It's approximately $60 for a soft copy and a lot more for a hard copy.
Yeah.
Well, you can go to the library. It's publicly accessible there, or, like I said, on the website. You can see that.
All right. Jose, and then David, and then Luann.
What I would like to see,
if we, just one moment, Jose, you want to repeat that one more time, Paul?
It's www.codesite.com. You're welcome.
Paul, can that be downloaded if people get onto that? Can they, how do they, what can they do with it?
I'm not aware of whether or not it can be downloaded, but I know you can print it.
You can print it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can print it from...
As long as you access the page, you click on the link that takes you to the charter, and then you just push the print button, and you can print the entire document.
Yeah.
a recommendation, George, is that we send a letter to each of the city council members requesting that a copy of the charter be placed in their district offices and all of their satellite offices to be made available to their constituents.
Good additional idea.
Yeah, very good idea.
We had David and then Luann.
Yeah, if I may, I would like to just follow up on the comments made by the last speaker, because he's echoed a concern that's been very consistent throughout the evening, and that's the lack of notice getting notice out to a community on a meeting of this kind is very difficult because so many of the usual ways are kind of discarded. If you send out flyers, a lot of time people just take flyers and automatically trash them and things like this. But we're in the school. We've been talking all evening about the children. And actually, it seems to me that one of the best messengers for urgent issues, to bring those issues to the attention of parents, are the children. And I'm so happy that Superintendent Boudreau is still here. Okay. Oh, school board, I'm sorry. I apologize for that. But my point being that it seems to me that if we're not already doing this, that one of the best ways to notify the community is to try to network with the schools, particularly the primary grades, the elementary schools, and to bring it to the attention of the children and tell them to go home and tell their parents what this is and that it's very important. And many, many more parents, not everyone, but I know many more, will get the message, because I know I have a daughter in elementary school, and anything that happens there, she brings it home and she insists that we read it and sign it and send it back. So that's just a suggestion.
Good idea. Luann, and then there are a couple of hands in the audience with questions, I think. Luann.
I feel a bit compelled to say this, and I suspect it won't be popular, so I'll just say so up front. It really is troublesome to me how much distrust there is and how much assumption there is about who we are up here. And I struggle with that. I am just a citizen. I am not a political person. I don't have a political office. I am not getting paid to do this. I'm not going to get paid for doing this. I don't end up with anything other than the opportunity to give up a lot of time and a lot of energy over the course of 2 years to participate in this. I live in the city of Los Angeles. I pay taxes here. I work here. I didn't know the charter from a hole in the wall until my council person called me and said, "I'd like you to serve." I don't think I'm terribly unique to the group. The difference between those of you in the audience and us sitting up here is that we're sitting up here. And that's pretty much the difference. And it concerns me, the level of distrust concerns me, because I think we can spend a lot of time distrusting each other and making assumptions about each other and not get on with the task at hand, which is to figure out what we need to do with the charter to better service as citizens. And if there's a huge political agenda about this, I haven't been cut in on it. I don't know what my task is supposed to be if someone has an agenda for me or has decided what I should do. They haven't shared it with me. And I just wanted you to hear that.
Thank you. I want to remind you that we have speakers who have signed up and who want to speak before the end of the evening. Ms. McClellan is up next. I saw some hands up, so if we have questions on communications, I don't think that's, I'll go out of order to answer those, but I don't want to interrupt those people who have already put in cards and want to speak, for those people who want to raise their hand just to speak from the audience. So with that caveat, yes, sir.
Because I'm going to leave, I'd just like to ask when is the next meeting and where, so that if I chose to attend it, I'll know where to go.
Our next public hearing will be held on October 15th. The location isn't set, but we are hopefully, if you signed in your name on our mailing list, we will be sending out that information. Our next regular commission meeting to consider the issues will be next Wednesday evening, which is a public meeting, and there'll be a follow-up meeting next Saturday, a week from this Saturday. So that's the 24th and the 27th, when we'll be addressing issues involving the role of the mayor and the city government. These are open public meetings. They'll be held on the 15th floor. commission boardroom at the Department of Water and Power, which is the building right across from the Music Center on Hope Street. There's plenty of parking, and public access is assured, and we welcome the audience being there, and we send out public notices about that meeting, those meetings as well. In the report, Road to Decision, there's a complete schedule of all of our activities all the way through the end of January, which, again, we're happy to send you.
Okay,
For when you're coming in by car, Gate 6.
All right. Thank you. Our next speaker is Elizabeth McClellan, followed by Jesse Taylor.
I'd like to say good afternoon to our distinguished panel and to the city officials who are here and who are gone, and to all of the constituents that came out here tonight to this meeting. I've sat here throughout the meeting and heard some very frustrated and very upset people speak, and this is the kind of attitudes most of the people in South Central have developed over the years, because I think we felt neglected. So when you come here and start to talking about reforming something, we think that we are supposed to come out and let you know how we feel about our problems, which I understand that isn't the issue here at all tonight. I am a community representative in Councilman Mark Wrigley-Thomas's Empowerment Congress. I am also a Board of Education employee. I work in special education. I am in mid-management. And I do have a stake in this community. I've been living here about 25 years. I'm a homeowner. And I choose to live in South Central because that's where I choose to live. I was working with the Community Coalition in the Rebuild Los Angeles Without Nuisance Liquor Stores. Yeah, I know many of you seen my face on television a lot during that time. I was one of the interveners that said to the parties concerned, when they said that they wanted to build liquor stores in our neighborhood, when we said we didn't want them, and the city intervened for us, and they sued the city, me and two other interveners sued them right back, and we won the case, and now it's a landmark case. So I'm not at all idle, nor am I frustrated to the point where I don't know what is best for me. What my concern is with the charter reform, I'm saying no to everything only except number 8. Now, you should know by now, this should really be something important to you by now. You should know by now that at the onset of this reform committee panel, you should have had in place a neighborhood council, because there is no way for you to know in a city so diverse as Los Angeles how to reform anything where it's going to be a benefit to the total city. So I'm suggesting, if you would take my suggestion tonight and ponder it, that you do have neighborhood councils, and that those neighborhood councils be representative of every corner and crevice in the city. And when you meet, that neighborhood council meet with you. They need to bring to you the concerns of the neighborhoods so that you don't have this kind of forum that you had tonight. If you had had some neighborhood people up there tonight, back there on another row, you would have had a list of concerns that brought to you from the neighborhood council chairperson that would have addressed many of the issues that we spent 3 or 4 hours here tonight talking about and just wasted our time. So, and I mean, may waste a little of mine. So I am asking you, when you do your charter reform, please include a neighborhood council body. And look at the model of the 8th District Empowerment Congress Council. Wonderful model. We are able to do many things. You should look in the back of my house and see the alley that used to be a dumping ground for trash and drug abuse and prostitution. Everything went back there in that alley. Now it's a beautiful park because of the Empowerment Congress. because they empowered us and taught us how to use the city resources to make our community a better place. And I think that's all you're trying to say. You want to get with the community and ask them what would it take to empower us so that we can make Los Angeles a better place for everybody. I think through an through a council such as the Empowerment Council, you could do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Jesse Taylor, followed by elected Commissioner Dennis Zine, and then we've got about a half a dozen speakers after that.
Good evening, and thank you for finally coming to the hood. I've been in attendance to all, I believe, but one of your town hall meetings, and I believe it's long overdue, like you've heard the audience relate to you. I'm going to speak to you from a dual perspective today. Being a native Californian and a product of South Central, you know, I can relate to what these people say. I have a couple of words of encouragement and advisement to you that whatever the elected and appointed do, hurry up and do it, because you're on a timetable. Let yourself be known and give access to these people because they want to talk to you, and you should be talking to them. Whatever decisions that both of you conclude on and put forward, let it reflect the diversity of the city. That is a must. We should hold you to that. Now I'm going to speak to you from the perspective that I do every day, because I've been up 17 hours. I am a representative of the 6,200 plus employees that work for all of you in Public Works. I'm their union rep. And I'm here on 2 or 3 items in this food for thought. The first being the question of should the civil service be restructured? No. Revised maybe? Yes, and very carefully. And should have all components of labor in this discussion with you, with the public, so that they know and understand just what the process and what the protections are. Because until we invoke accountability, because everyone in public service is accountable to each and every one of you. And that's what's overdue in the city of LA, accountability. Mr. Throwbridge, my former general manager, knows me well. If you want to know anything about me, ask him, he'll tell you. I'm on your mailing list. I'm at your disposal if you need me. I work, and I will be brief getting to your sign up there. In what ways can government run more efficiently? The key issue today is to work smarter, not harder, with less. I mean, the threat of privatization will never go away, and those of you in the public should know and understand, just because it's private doesn't mean it's right for you, because you are going to pay. Trust that. You will pay. And when you start paying, it's never going to stop. But the thing is to incorporate accountability and efficiency levels to where us in labor and those in management can come together and work on a participative base to come up with these reforms and areas of efficiency to where we can do our jobs better. Because I am, yes, the pothole man. I represent those that fill the potholes. I am the boy that Sister Walker up here talked about, yes, in the night doing the job, alum of Fremont High School, born in City General Hospital when it was, and those of you remember that. Yeah, I had to move out, but in these times of today, you got to move out to move back. All of you were fortunate, and you got your roots in first. It's hard for a young man like myself. I commend you. You are going to have to come back here. You're going to have to come back here soon, okay? You're going to have to reach out to these people. Don't just take their words for granted. They really don't understand the process like myself. But with your help and your encouragement, you can help them understand, and they might can help you too. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you. I'm going to go to sleep.
Thank you. Our next speaker is elected Commissioner Dennis Zine, followed by Dr. Jorge Mencius.
As the crowd dwindles, some of us are still here. I appreciate that. Prop 8, that's what brought this all about. For those of you who aren't aware, the Valley wants to secede from the city of Los Angeles. And that threat of secession prompted Prop 8, which brought about the elected charter, the appointed charter. Being an elected charter commissioner, it's a responsibility not only to represent the San Fernando Valley, and those are my roots, the San Fernando Valley, but the entire city of Los Angeles. And I want you to know that I worked 77th Street Division. I'm a Los Angeles police sergeant. I've been with the police department for 29 years, born and raised, educated in this city, and I spent many years of my life in South Central LA. I've seen how the Valley receives the crumbs of city government. I've seen how you receive the scraps in South Central Los Angeles. I see what's happened to this community over the years. It has not improved. It's gotten worse over the years. The gangs have multiplied. The witness intimidation is threatening all of you, and I've seen that firsthand. So I have great empathy for you that hold out in the city of Los Angeles, in particular, South Central Los Angeles. It's my goal as an elected charter commissioner, work with the appointed charter commission to make this entire city safe. Because if the Valley secedes from the city, San Pedro and the West Side will secede from the city, and there'll be a no man's land left in the city of Los Angeles. So we need to unify and come together. I live in the Valley because I find it comfortable to live in the Valley. If I found it comfortable living in South Central Los Angeles, I would live in this community. But for my personal life, it's more comfortable in the Valley. But those of you who live here and endure the threat, the violence on everyday occasion, speakers have talked about crime, about violence, and I've lived with that. I'm also the Vice President of the Los Angeles Police Protective League, the union that represents police officers in the city of Los Angeles. And I know what they go through on a daily basis. What Los Angeles needs to do with the $4 billion budget is establish efficiency, be attentive to you, the voters, the taxpayers, be an effective government. Work with you. Set the goals. Set the goals for the entire community so we don't have narcotics trafficking throughout the communities, so we don't have the homeless population terrorizing you, the graffiti, the vandals, and all the blight that takes place in this city. Most people could care less about the charter. All they care about is the quality of life.
Right.
The commissioners appointed and elected, most of us didn't have any idea what was in the charter, other than certain elements that I need to know as a police officer, as a police supervisor. But we don't care about the charter as a community, as a city. We care about quality of life. And that's what the elected commission wants to do with the appointed commission, is enhance your quality of life, give you a quality of life that you're paying for, and take away those scraps and give you a city you can be proud of, a city we can all work together to be proud of. Not split it up, not divide it into smaller communities. We talk about a failed educational system. It's not because of the Board of Education or the dedicated teachers. And as a law enforcement officer, I'll tell you, putting people in jail isn't the answer. We can build $2 million, 77 stations with regional jails all over the city. If we don't take the youth and enhance that and give them something other than gangs and make the parents accountable and responsible, and this charter, I think, can address that. But my heart goes out to the teachers, it goes out to the municipal workers, and I'm not for privatizing the city, because you're going to pay more and you're going to receive less. You've got a lot of dedicated employees in the city of LA. So in conclusion, it's my goal and my fellow commissioners, and you've got 4 elected commissioners, Marguerite Archie Hutchins, who serves on both commissions, Bennett Kaiser, Jackie DuPont Walker, and myself here tonight representing our 15 members. And we want to work together. And it's our goal from the elected charter commission to go into the community and have our weekly meetings in the community. We don't want to look like aliens invading your community, because what we give you is what you're going to have to live with, and you've been paying for it. Again, you've been getting not crumbs like the Valley's been complaining, you're getting the scraps. And that must change. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Dr. Jorge Mancias, then Ron Ingram.
I'm Dr. Jorge Mancillas. I'm a neurobiologist, a writer, and I work as a district representative for State Senator Tom Hayden. Given the time, I'm going to save my remarks for another occasion, and I will just reduce them to one question. Will you come back? Tonight, you heard a lot of distrust, and people are going to walk away from here thinking, was Luan Boylan for real? Is she really just like me? And the answer to that question is going to be revealed by the fact of whether or not you come back. Were you here simply to put on your report, we were there, we were throughout the city, or are you going to come back and address some of the questions that were raised tonight? As I said, I will reserve my other comments for another occasion, given the time that it is already, but I think that's the key question. It's a question of trust.
Answer is yes.
Thank you. Next speaker is Ron Ingram, and after that, Victor J. Namias.
I'm sure without the whiskers you all recognize me. You see me so often. First of all, Ms. Ivory, I did not mean to offend you when I ask you your address, I will have Mark deliver a copy of the charter from my home. I'll give it to Mark and see that he gives it to you. I will also get a foundation to give us 1,000 printings of the charter. And if we need 2,000, I'll get 2,000. You see me tonight without handcuffs as I come to Marguerite Archie Hudson Show and Company. This is your district. Is it reasonable to assume it's also Rita Waters?
Yes, it is.
Excuse me, I'm talking about Maxine Waters.
Yes, it is.
I gave Maxine over $2 million worth of food during the riots. This is something I've never disclosed. She has never said thank you. I gave the same to Kenny Hahn, and Kenny is one of my dearest friends, and I am a notorious Republican. And when the president and CEO of Ralston Purina called me and said, Mr. Ingram, we gave you pet food, we gave you baby food, we gave you food. Doris Day called me, do you know Miss Day? I said, yes, I do. You know Earl Hellerman? I'm now sending you $1 million worth of pet food to go to South Los Angeles, but I will send it only to the warehouse of Kenny Hahn and Representative Waters as you requested. Now, my concern tonight is, gentlemen, my hands are uncuffed. The elected commission will have all the money they will need. I do not want to see a war, but I'm afraid you're going to face one with the public. Their credibility will never be challenged as to why they are seated. Yours will always be challenged. And as for you, ma'am, you will always be a political appointee, whether you like it or not. Now, I see all this anger tonight, and I can't believe it. These people have their districts. They want something. I heard what happened in the first one out in the valley when they demanded that you come back for the last one. What it needs to be done is all over, and I will see that enough money is available that we can have large joint meetings. The city of Los Angeles holds hundreds of millions of dollars worth of buildings, and there are auditoriums, and there are sports arenas, and there's a Hollywood Bowl. But my concern is that we don't get into a struggle, but if push comes to shove, the people of the city of Los Angeles did elect a commission, and don't you ever forget it.
Victor J. Namias, and followed by, looks like, I'm having trouble reading this, it looks like Paula Daniels. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone on the commission. I appreciate your being here tonight, and I think I speak on behalf of everybody in the 8th District Empowerment Congress. Thank you for making the time to be here in the community. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Victor J. Namias. I am chairperson of the West area of the 8th District Empowerment Congress. I'm also president of the Cameo Woods Homeowners Association and owner of my own firm, Envision Architecture. One of the things that we count on charter reform doing is helping us in finding the appropriate scale for the decision-making that must be made in Los Angeles. I think we all recognize that the current system does not do this very well. It does not address either the large issues or the small issues effectively. And I think this is evidenced by our inability to come to grasp and to tackle the big issues and the small ones that are affecting us as a community. The attempts to divide Los Angeles into a myriad of small cities, which is already extended to the point that we are 88 cities in LA County, with the threat of various sections of LA breaking off again and adding to that, is an attempt by many people to try to bring the decision-making process down to a local level, to try to bring things into an area where people, citizens, feel that they can control them. Or in some areas, it's an attempt to avoid dealing with issues by passing them off on the areas that they've left behind. But we are not well served by such an approach. As such, we must find common cause as the cities on large issues with our fellow cities in finding solutions and in solving the problems that do not end at our city's boundaries. So that may mean that part of the city charter recommendations may be that the city must divest itself of some of its powers in some cases and pass them up a level, up to maybe the level of the city, excuse me, of the county, in order that we can address those problems. I do not think that we are well-served as a city on large issues, on regional issues, when we have a light rail system, potential for light rail system on Exposition Boulevard, blocked by people in Rancho Park. It means that one small community is able to defeat the interests of the entire community. I don't think that we as a city are well-served when the neighborhood of Hancock Park is able to block a Metro Rail Red Line station at Crenshaw and Wilshire Boulevard. So we see small areas that are able to wreak havoc on the interests of the city as a whole. The same thing has to be said on the small city scale as well. We must make the effort, excuse me, to push the power in the decision-making on neighborhood issues down to the lowest possible level where those issues can be effectively addressed, regardless of whether that's the block, the neighborhood, excuse me, or the district itself. We must give neighborhoods the power to say no, but we must also give them the opportunity to say yes. So those are the things that I wish you to address.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Paula Daniels, followed by the last speaker, Naji Ali. I want to remind the listeners that this is a public hearing of the City of Los Angeles Charter Reform Commission on the revision of the Los Angeles City Charter.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you into our neighborhood and into one of our neighborhood schools. I just want to say that I'm really glad that you're giving us the opportunity, us meaning we the people. I believe that's in one of the legal documents to establish the laws in this country for the people. And as I think about the $2 bill, if you look on the back at the table, here we are, only in nowadays. I just wanted to say that in terms of being the voice, we need to be able to understand, first of all, what are we talking about? As I came in this evening, I looked at the questions, the key questions for charter reform. If you're saying that it takes $60 to print up a reform packet, then how can we just get like 10 questions? The key issues here, they reflect different interests. They don't necessarily reflect my own. So I think that, first of all, we need to be educated on what does the original charter package contain, so that then we can go down and see what we need to change or leave as is. In terms of the mayor having more power, well, I don't think that when you turn on the TV or you read in the newspaper, well, he said we're going to do this today, and no, we're not going to do that, and no, we're not going to do that. Well, what did I have to say about that? So I think that it's most important that you be able to come into the communities and to hear what we have to say, because it's very important. My son, he's 13 now, and this is what we need to concentrate on. I'm the mother of the future. I'm the woman almost of the past. My son said, well, why are we going? They don't do anything. What are they going to do? What are they going to talk about they're going to do now and don't do it? He's our future. I want him to be able to live here. I don't want to have to tell my children, you have to leave Los Angeles, because there's nothing for you here. There is no future for you here. So all I'm saying is that give us an equal playing field to be able to make these decisions, not only for ourselves as future seniors, but for the future of my children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. I mean, because there's some things, once you change, it's like the fingerprints and handprints at Grauman's. They're there. So we need to be able to think not only for today, not only for ourselves, but for the people, all the people, not just some with whatever. You were talking about how can you reach the people. We have TV, such a huge medium. Put it out there. We have public access. I thought that if you wanted to get the citizens involved, you talked about the number of votes here tonight, 1,000 people going out and voting. Send them a summons, just like you do for jury duty. Send them a summons to come and listen and be involved. That's their civic duty. I mean, I see that you're somewhat amused about that, but I think that it would work. Just like you get a summons, you have to come and be interviewed for jury duty. Why not come to participate in this? You're a member. You're a voting person. Teach the children about the charter. It's going to affect them. I thought, too, that maybe we could go to a city entity that has a printer and request that it be printed up. I mean, do we have the access to those types of services? I'm sure that there are some departments that printers are not maybe as useful as others. Why can't we go and access those areas to receive that information that we need? So I just wanted to say that I didn't want all the decisions to be made in a smoke-filled room, and then I thought that's redundant because smoking's not allowed in Los Angeles. So I just don't want it to be a closed thing. I want to be able to know if there's a difference, like we have a slogan in LA Unified, if it is up to me, if it is to be, it is up to me. And if I can make a difference, I will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Final speaker is Naji Ali.
I'd like to extend the traditional Muslim greetings of peace to everyone, known as Assalamu Alaikum, which simply means peace be upon you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. I'm going to get straight to the point. So I'm the last speaker and it's getting late, but I want to give a comment, but I do want to have a chance to respond to what Luann said about the sense of frustration, hostility she sensed in the community. And I was offended because you mentioned that you lived in Los Angeles, but you don't live in South Central in our community. So I feel we have a right to feel the way we feel because we live here, and the conditions that we go through give us a right to feel and react that way. When you look at my arms, these come from being shot and getting gang violence in South Central. I grew up 2 blocks down the street. I got shot on 73rd and Avalon. So when I walk back into this community, I'm home. This is where I grew up at. And I respect everyone up there, but I really could care less about you as far as being concerned. My main concern are my people here in the community that live here and the decisions that are going to affect them. And it's really disheartening because I look around this room, I go to meetings all over this city representing my organization, Project Islamic Hope. Everywhere I look, it's like I'm the last man standing. And when I'll be more specific, the last African-American man standing. And that's something you need to take a look at as far as really addressing these issues, that there be more community involvement, not just more meetings, but actually more community involvement as far as sitting on that side of the table. Because I believe we have the answers to what's going on in our communities. People like me, people that have gone through the experiences I've experienced. So I don't want to be late and redundant, but we want to work together collectively with what goes on. Thank you for your time.
If there are any others who want to speak, please let us know. Otherwise, this public hearing will be coming to a close. Marguerite, you wanted to say, and any commissioners, and then I want to conclude.
Yeah. I think someone wanted to speak.
We have other people who want to speak.
I just wanted to make a suggestion. Public information now has to be paid for. You're putting public information in libraries, and you have limited hours and irregular hours. And people who are most involved in the governmental process and want them, the hours are not coinciding where people have the time to go to a library after doing 8 hours. The internet website is more conducive. And people should not have to pay 20 cents a page for a sheet of paper that is involving our governmental process.
Thank you. Marguerite.
Thank you. I want, just in closing, to thank everyone for being here tonight and for the fact that people came out to really share frustration, issues, ideas, recommendations, and that's exactly what we all believe is important. I want to say that this is a new process for all of us, and I think I speak for all of us collectively when I say if we stay with it together and talk about it and talk it out and argue it out and debate it out, and if we keep ourselves on the notion that whatever comes out of all of this has to be something that enhances the quality of life for all of us, that really is the mandate. The way we do that is going to depend so much on what we all do together. And for someone who asked the doctor over there, are we going to be back? Yes. Over and over and over and over. That's what our charge is collectively. The investment in this is in everybody. That's why people are here. I, for one, was really excited about the fact that people are here and we're taking each other to task and we're talking about things. And I recognize that all that means is, as the brother said, this is because people are here because they're interested. It matters. This really does matter. So for all the naysayers who said, and they have said, well, you know, the people are not going to be interested, the one thing we know is people are interested, truly, truly interested, and are taking seriously this notion that if we're going to debate this charter, our Constitution, everybody had better listen. We have things to say. So I think in every forum, every opportunity, every means by which we need to come together, to talk together, we're going to do that. Let me say one last thing. The questions here tonight were beginning questions. That's all. And as most people say, that's not even what I'm interested in. That's fine. That's great. Don't think that those are what we believe are the final documents. That was something that, as we said, our group of people have said these are the questions. There are lots more questions that came out tonight, and there are lots more questions. And finally, we all agree that all of us have to find some way to sit with this charter. Some of us want to read it line by line. Some of us are interested in particular. Whatever it is, we have to stay with this over the next 18 months, connected together around this issue, that if we're going to get a city that's worthy of all of us living in, we have to stay with it. So I really am excited and happy and pleased that all of us are here tonight, that we're talking about it, that we are being very strong in our opinion, because after all, it does matter. And lastly, I think we all agree that this really is about the future of our children, and that's an investment that all of us want to make. So I want to reiterate that I think that I, for one, and I think all of the commissioners, happen to be the people that are kind of being almost facilitators of the process, because the decision makers in the process are really the voters and the people of Los Angeles. So I hope that we all leave here tonight committed to the fact that this is the beginning of a process, not the end of it, and that we all will stay with it until we finally get a document that's worth changing the discussion that the last mother said her son had. Children should have some hope that Los Angeles is going to be worthy of being inhabited when they grow up, and I think that's the charge we have to make all of them. So I thank you all very much. I look forward to our continued dialogue, and I assure you that we'll all be here until this project is done. Thank you very much.
Let me see if there are other commissioners who have any remarks to make.
Yes, I learned a lot this evening because I'm from the harbor area. And one thing we didn't do tonight, we did it last time we had a hearing, that was to introduce each of us from where we were, where we come from, what community we're in. And I think that puts you at a disadvantage. But I'm from the harbor, the 15th Council District, which has 5 communities, from Watts all the way to San Pedro, Wilmington, and so forth. And we had 250 people last time we had a hearing like this in my area where I come from, echoing a lot of concerns that you'd be surprised are common throughout the city. And I think it's important that you realize that all of us going around the city this first time around, we're having the opportunity to listen, to hear more what you feel right here in South Central Los Angeles. Okay, so we're learning. It's a learning curve for us as well. And from an educational standpoint, Mr. Kaiser down here and myself are both public school teachers. They have a diverse background on this commission as well. They're not all legal people. They're not all, they all come from different walks of life. So we're trying to take collective wisdom here to try to put together and synthesize all that we're hearing. So please give us, understand how we are, but we're going to try to do our best to tell you who we are, too. Thank you.
Yes, Lou Ann Boylan.
Just to follow up to the gentleman who spoke to me, my concerns or my statement is not at all about trying to discount what frustrations are felt in the communities at all. You're right, I don't live in South Central, I live in Echo Park. My son was shot, and I have empathy for your mother, who must have felt very badly when you were shot. I am not at all suggesting that frustrations aren't real and aren't different from community to community. My concern that I was trying to express is that if we simply discount one another, if we simply decide who we think each other is, and therefore that we can't be part of any solution, then we will in fact have that outcome. So I would just ask you not to discount me or decide who you think I am, but perhaps leave room for the fact that I might be part of the solution, not a part of the problem.
I'm not mad at you.
I didn't hear it as mad, but I wasn't going to let you go on without getting my answer.
That's funny.
Other commissioners, any other comments?
I would just like to say
Judge Reese, yes.
that I have learned a lot tonight. Learned a lot. They say there are 2 steps to wisdom. First step is to listen. The second step is to stay silent. Your concerns, our concerns that have been expressed here tonight, I heard them expressed in the Valley. I didn't attend the meeting on the east side, but I understand the same concerns were expressed in the harbor area. Don't feel that you're any different from anybody else in this area. My offices were at 25th and Central when I practiced law for 20 years in this area, in South Central area. Now that I've been on the bench for 20 years and retired, I want you to know that all people are the same. It's just a question of who's wearing the shoe that doesn't fit. So we'll all get together. All of us up here are volunteers. Volunteers, and nobody controls volunteers. We're going to work on this charter, and we're going to listen to the people, and we're going to come back to you with something we can work with. I'm very happy to be here tonight.
Thank you, Judge Reese. I want to remind you and our listeners this has been a hearing of the Los Angeles Charter Reform Commission on the revision of the Los Angeles City Charter. We've appreciated being welcome into your community, and we will be back. Thank you very much.
Okay, good hearing.